I got your blast off meme. Never been doxxed. Don't worry. But yeah, we got, what is this? Noah and Hasanabi Rain Man. Okay. Okay. All right. I like that. And yeah, this is part of the broadcast where I tell you about my personal news, but honestly, there's literally nothing going on in my life. I told Buddha I was gonna go play basketball with him after I ended the stream, but I was so tired, I just kind of passed out watching Pantheon. And you went out to get dinner. You know, Korean. He's been living life. I told him I couldn't go. I ordered Chipotle and then it got canceled. So woe was me. So it was
canceled. It said problematic things.
No, it was canceled. It was crazy. Like I ordered Chipotle and there was a different rider for it. Right, there was someone else picking it up, and then the rider changed, and the second guy texted me and he was like, "Hey man, just so you know, someone else picked up your order." And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, what does that mean? What does that mean for me? Are they making a new one? And they're like, nah. And I was like, oh, all right, don't worry about it. I was literally like, all right, don't worry about it. I hope you still get paid though. It's just, I just didn't understand. So
that's right. Somebody else got 3 burrito bowls that are only chicken and rice, nothing else.
No, I've pretty much. But it is what it is. We lost one. It's L. So I just ate some guacamole I already had and some protein. That was my dinner. But I think that's part of the reason why I'm so tired all the time, potentially because I've been on a major deficit this past week. So I got to increase my my caloric intake. 0 New York City pics, 0 DreamCon pics, 0 birthday pics. We need you to be a better influencer. It's not even pics that's the meta now, chat. You're faillennials. The real meta is wherever I go, I clip farm, and then I post the clip farms on TikTok, and then I post those TikToks on my Instagram. That's what the kids are doing nowadays. That's the real meta. But I'm not even doing any of that. Clip farm is the actual real meta, and I should be doing that, but I'm not doing that. You don't even post on Insta. Yeah, exactly. TikTok dances, old man. That's the old meta that's coming back. But yeah, this is, I saw this on TikTok earlier. I reposted it already. It's pretty funny. It's just, yeah. Hope Corps. Me in 2026 watching Netanyahu get sentenced to The Hague live on Twitch, hosted by Hassan Piker. Imagine. What is this? My official statement on Israel? What the fuck is this?
Okay, I would like to make an official statement on what they are doing is not a genocide. I have not been forced to make this statement in any way. Your phone cameras, the UN, all your friends, every government at this point is lying to you. Believe the words of Benjamin Netanyahu, not your own. Get me out of here. You gotta get
I gotta say though, that laser pointer does just look like a floating zit.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. It's not laser pointer.
Listen, it's not sniper rifle.
It is not.
It's a hug delivery machine.
Yeah, you are Hamas.
Look down scope and you aim the machine and it give hug.
Yes.
It give hug.
It's a truth machine. Makes you tell the truth about children who are Hamas.
Listen, when you think
babies.
about this. Listen. A child, after a couple years, he becomes an adult, becomes grown up.
Yeah.
And if a child is that close to grown up, are they really child?
Yeah.
I'm asking you to be thinking about this.
As opposed to the one guy who was an Israeli occupying force soldier who was killed, who was formerly a baby.
Oh, God, I saw that. That was crazy. Yeah.
Formerly a very famous baby. That was the peak, dude. That was so funny.
I wish, you just wonder, at Nuremberg, did any of them try that? They were like, listen. He yes, Albert Speer was the head of armaments, but look at this photo. Look at these cheeks. Could a man like this have done evil?
I need to find that. I think Will posted.
Oh, Will posted it. Will posted it. The
but
former
he fucking nonstop posts. God damn, I can't even find it. No, is it from a couple days ago? Does anyone have that? Does anyone have that tweet where it was This is a former famous baby that the scary Hamas terrorists killed. And it's like, dude, what are you saying? Yep, this is it.
Oh, yeah, because he was a Gerber baby.
Yeah.
Or Huggies baby.
Amit Cohen, who was killed yesterday in Gaza, was once a face known to every Israeli. In 2007, he was a Huggies baby. And it's like, wow, I can't believe I cannot believe the Palestinians would do this. They would kill a former baby.
I mean, look at him. He's not like, if I'm a Palestinian and I see that guy coming, I'm thinking like, holy cow, I'm in Gaza and I can't eat and I don't have electricity and the water is poison.
This guy's coming to kill my family.
There's the Huggies baby coming. Like, I show some respect. I'm telling my brothers, I'm telling my sisters, like, hey, put some respect on that guy's name. He's a Huggies baby guy who's like, coming to kill us.
It's great. Have you seen this one about you? Oh, yeah, I've seen this too. Yeah. There's a lot of people fantasizing about me participating in the Nuremberg trials. It'd be great. I like live reacting to the Nuremberg trials. That'd be so sick, honestly. It's just me in 2030 tuning into the new Nuremberg trials on Twitch hosted by Hassan Piker. Like that's too much. That's too much as far as like Hope Corps goes. We're manifesting this timeline looking more like 2035 to 2040, but inshallah we'll get there. He's gonna open with the crab dance. Yeah,
actually no, it's my name is Hassan Piker and this floss is for the children of Gaza.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. That's David Guetta shit. No, it'd be more tasteful.
That would be actually getting David Guetta to do a set before the Nuremberg trial.
Yeah,
the Neo Nuremberg trial. Yeah,
dude. It'd be so sick. Who's your fave to see it tried in Nuremberg? Who do you think would be the best?
Well, the GOAT is like the LeBron of that is Netanyahu.
No,
he's
not
the obvious.
Not the obvious ones. I'm saying like someone where you're like, that'd be kind of funny if like in the actual OG Nuremberg trials, there was just a dude who fucking hated his neighbor and he was like, this guy is the king.
Yeah, they like, listen, this guy, he hated the Jews and everything. Yeah. But like he just kept taking my trash cans. They're my trash cans.
Yeah.
They're not his. And he kept moving them. And that's why he should be hung next to all these other guys.
I think a lot of people are saying Barry Weiss. I think that's a good one. Yeah, for sure.
Barry Weiss would be an interesting one.
Danny Danon
for sure.
Yeah.
I think
was it Drew Pavlov?
I think so. Oh God, that would be.
I think Drew Pavlov is so stupid that he's just like, that's like a.
Well, he's on his Loomer shit now. Have you seen this?
Yeah, that's a problem that's like fixing itself, I think.
Yeah,
he's like, I think he's going to jail or something because he was he might be going to, he's arrested because he's like
he's like, I'm too broke to pay a fine.
Yeah, well,
to the Brisbane authorities.
Well, what happened is like,
Drew Pavlov, we find you in contempt of court.
He's the first guy to get arrested and like prosecuted for being annoying, I think. Because like the shit that he advocates for is the things that the Australian government already agree on. It's like being pro-Israel, being extremely and viciously anti-China.
And like crazily censorious against anybody who's pro-Palestine. No, it's
like,
nuts.
Like how are your vibes so fucked that the very same administration that is under every other circumstance like supposed to be on board with what you're doing literally still prosecuting you?
I think it's as simple as like, if you're really about that clout game like too much and like you let it show and you let your naked desire to be like he just wants to be the most successful. He wants to be a really big success and all these other things, and instead it's just like you can smell the desperation through the computer screen thousands of miles away.
Yeah, he protested on private ground, didn't leave after told to, fined $1,000, tried to get it away on other courts, and in the end it accumulated to $23,000 that he doesn't want to pay, so he's going to jail by his own will.
All right, see, this is skill issue shit, because it's like he's now like if you like imagine being like a crazy pro-Israel NATO guy and like doing this like bullshit self-sacrifice thing, and you can't even find a rich guy to bail you out.
Yeah, well,
like somebody who pulls in that kind of money in a half hour.
Sorry, it's just like such a fucking L if you're like going to jail for being too pro-Israel in any of these like Western aligned nations. You literally are, your vibes are so fucked. You are just such a goddamn loser that even the governments that are very much on board with whatever the fuck you're advocating for are just going, we're going to throw you in jail because you're just so annoying.
Well, and he's also like, in addition to being annoying and like sweaty clout hound who like will not stop inserting himself into people's mentions for lack of a better thing to do with his time in life. There is also like the fact that he doesn't actually have anything interesting or original to say. And that when people like do rebut on even like a semi-substance level, like not even like that comprehensively, like they like push back against his stuff, he like bugs out. He goes nuts. Yeah. And will immediately just start calling you names.
He's just very dumb and very annoying. And I think he's like, I mean, he's basically like, what's his face? Rabbi Shmuley in the sense that like his very appearance and like the things that he says are so stupid and so insane that like it actually invokes a negative response from allies where they're like, dude, maybe it's better if you don't say.
But this goes back to that this goes back to the level of vibes though. I have a really funny, I mean, I have a few different Rabbi Shmuley stories, but my favorite Rabbi Shmuley, like the funniest Rabbi Shmuley story was that like, because he used to dine out so much on his like old friendship with Cory Booker, he would like write op-eds for like the Times of Israel or whatever. And a guy, Dylan Williams, he's like a you know, lefty-ish like policy guy in DC. We used to work for J Street, now works for somewhere else. But he like took the first word of one of Shmuley's columns. And like the first word in each paragraph or sentence, it was just I, me, Cory, Holocaust, I, me, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other was like 8 years ago, I covered an APAC conference, and they had the main APAC conference at like the Washington Convention Center, the big place, you know, et cetera. And then across the street, there's the synagogue, 6th Street and I, and at the 6th and I synagogue in the basement is where they had all the settlers. Like it's where, and the right wingers who in 2017 were considered like too out there to be given like real main stage FaceTime at the APAC conference. And because I'm, you know, such a smart, well-behaved journalist, I made sure to get there like an hour early before it started so that I knew I could get in, and see, you know, like Naftali Bennett and Ayelet Shaked and these other freaks give their spiel in this basement. And then once that was done and I was like, all right, I need to leave or else I'm going to go insane, I get outside and the first thing that I see is there's a line of people trying to get into this building because evidently they all want to go to the settler party or whatever. But the first person who's like trying to get his way in and not succeeding from what I can tell was Rabbi Shmuley.
I love that.
Like he wasn't like Blood thought he was on the team and he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, who the fuck wants that guy at their party? Like, I assume like an APAC settler party, the APAC conference is going to be not the best looking people, regardless. But like, Rabbi Shmuley is just so fucking gross inside and out. I don't know. He's just like he's not. I don't. Well, I don't understand. I mean,
he's also like he's you know, he's a bit of a flim flam man. Like he has a charity. It's, you know, and they like I remember looking at their 990s some years ago, and it's like the thing they do is they pay him a salary and he hosts a dinner, and his job is to be like a pundit surrogate style guy for Israel in the media or whatever. At least that's how he sees it now.
If your job is flack, if your job is to just like propagandize at the behest of the apartheid state, and you're just so repulsive, like the things you're saying are so repulsive.
Well, but you got to remember, dog, he was a reality TV show star. You know that, right?
Wait, what was the reality?
Shalom in the Home.
Is that
Google?
what?
But look this up. Come on, dog. That's why anybody pays attention to him, is because he branded himself America's rabbi. Because he was the first person to leverage being a rabbi into being on the most important American cultural export, reality television.
The fuck is Shalom in the Home, bro? Reality TV 2 seasons. Shalom in the Home is a belief that our homes is peaceful. Wait, what the fuck? Is an American reality television series that aired on TLC. First of all, if you have only 2 seasons on TLC, you're ass. Okay? Because like TLC will have the Learning Channel, by the way. They'll run anything for like at least 7 seasons. How did you get canceled after 2 seasons on the TLC, man? On the Learning Channel? That's crazy. Okay, we have to watch this, bro. This is on the docket now. The show debuted on April 10th, 2006. A second and final season of Shalom in the Home began on March 7th, 2007. The weekly 1-hour primetime program sought to help families overcome difficult problems. Boteach provided advice to dysfunctional families about relationships, marriage, and parenting, and tried to bring them peace. Shalom in Hebrew. Yeah, he used to be like woke. Right?
I wouldn't go that far. He's always been kind of a mover and a shaker. Like when he was
when he was like the woke rabbi.
I mean, he may be positioned like that a
Bro,
little
someone
bit.
already found it. That's crazy. That's crazy that you found it instantly. like what were you waiting? You were like, oh, that's my favorite.
Is that doesn't look The Chosen?
No, this is The Chosen season 1, episode 3. I don't know what the fuck this is.
No, that's not.
This is not right though. This link is incorrect. And it's not even working.
Yeah, a highlight reel.
He uploaded his own highlight reel.
Season 2 highlights.
I was supposed to show you brain rot, and you're the one who's showing me brain rot. Asno is a resident NBA man that if I'm allowed to be excited for Dame to come back to Portland when we have IDF soldiers in Deni Avdia on the team, or am I complicit? # Free Palestine.
The Blazers are not the only franchise with that issue going, is how I'd put it. And I'm excited for Dame to go back to Portland. Obviously, he's not going to be really playing this year at all, but it's a great feel-good story. And the Blazers are an exciting young team.
I have an announcement. Now that, and this pains me to say, now that LeBron James is basically going to retire and, it's imminent, right? I'm in the search of a new GOAT.
You're looking for a new GOAT?
And it's not, and you don't just simply look for a new GOAT. The GOAT finds you. And it's official, Wemby, I think.
I can't deny that.
Wemby
he's got such serious, the aura.
I can't believe I'm saying this because he's French, okay? Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. It, like, hurts me. It pains me physically to say that it's too early, it's too soon to tell whether he will actually perform as the GOAT. It looks like he will. He's putting some meat on them bones, right? But I think his off-court performance this summer has been so good.
China, Karl Malone, he just can't stop.
Mao posting. He's posting Mao positively. Okay. And on top of that, the shitting on, dookying on Karl Malone and being like, he should go to jail. He's a pedophile. He's the man. He is the man.
Do we know what his opinions are about Mélenchon? Has he been able to?
I don't know what he thinks about Mélenchon.
I mean, granted, I don't NBA players unless they're I
hit my buddy up. I was like, "Do you have a direct link to him?" And he was like, "I can link you up with his manager. I can give you his manager's number." But he is Jean-Luc Wemby. Yeah. He was born in 2004, bro. That is crazy. He is, dude.
Chinese Jokic is also real, by the way.
Yeah.
Young Hansen is going to be fucking awesome.
I think he was wearing tabby sneakers when he was doing something in China. I saw that. It blew my fucking mind, dude. Jokic, China. Let's see if we can find it. Okay. Rare off-season photos of Jokic. Nikola Jokic go viral. He was in China. Bro, what the fuck is that?
That makes so much sense, though,
dude. That is so funny.
That's what he wants. He wants to be with the horses. He goes to China.
Even recently in the summer league. Wait, what the fuck is this? No, this is not what I'm looking for. Why'd you link me this? Yeah, that's a regular size horse. That's not even a pony. That looks like a dog next to Jokic. Yeah.
My dog is sick.
He's in He's not it. Dude, that's not what I'm looking for. What are you doing? No, I'm looking for Jokic in China. No, this is not Chinese Jokic. This is a guy who dresses up like
we should clarify. There is Chinese Jokic, who is Young Hansen, perhaps, and then there is Jokic in China, which is a different kind of Chinese.
We're looking for Jokic in China because he was like playing ball in China, and he had the tabby basketball shoes on, which was crazy. But yes, I'm familiar with this guy. I see him all the time. I'm on Basketball Talk chatters. Okay, I see all the same shit that you see. I know who this guy is. There was even an American dude, who I think is Chinese American, who flew to fucking China and beat his ass. He was kind of short, but he played ball with this guy. I've seen this guy all over my feed. Okay, calm down. That's not Hassan doesn't know Young Hun Sen. Isn't Young? It's the tall one, right?
Yeah, he's the big.
No, I know who he is.
He was there on draft night. No, he's the cool. He's like obviously like the coolest. Like that was the coolest thing to come out of the draft in summer league.
Basketball legend Nikola Jokic finds out that tourist signs in China are also in Serbian. Oh yeah, look at his shoes. You can kind of see it here. Look, that's all I wanted to show you.
He's got tabbies on.
He's got. I don't know what this is, but I need it.
This is in my language.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it is.
Oh, it is.
Hey, take a pic. There you go.
Yeah.
This is a
Look at that. Why does he have tabbies on? Are those tabbies? Like, what the fuck is that?
We have breaking news.
Here, question mark. It's fucking
California,
Dianne Feinstein dying. All right, I'm blocking. It's done. Take a week off, dude. Fuck you. Okay, enough. This motherfucker has like size 18 tabby basketball shoes on, and I need to know what they
I love
are.
having his numbers on the back of the shirt.
Oh my god, everybody loves fucking. Here's a better view of the tabbies. Oh, there it is. Jokic enjoying his time in China. This is what I watched. Finally.
Are those tabbies that's just like a line down there?
I don't know.
I think there's just a line on his shoes. Yeah, they're just his sneakers. But that is an interesting concept. Tabby basketball shoes.
Yeah. Probably terrible.
That would be like that's like a catastrophic injury on the court waiting to happen. Yeah.
Unfortunately for you, Wemby told French people to avoid extremes, so avoid far right and far left parties for the 2024 legislative session. Oh no. Well, he likes Mao. So 3 days before the legislative elections, Victor Wembanyama calls for moving away from extremes. I remember something like this. It's all good. He went. This is pre-China. Okay. Trust. Chat. Trust. Shh. Pre-China Wemby. Pre-Maoist Wemby. It's all good. Okay. It's all good. He's now a Maoist. He's a Maoist or worldist. Not a tabby, just a line. Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying this for me. Why are all the NBA guys going? I was gonna say why are they going to China, but like the money.
Well, NBA China is so huge,
big market,
and like it's also I think like on top of the fact that it's like historically been like the big like outside of Europe like the biggest foreign market for I guess Europe and Mexico, but like. It is now.
Even go to Europe like that though?
I mean, what do you mean, like NBA players?
Yeah, like officially on like a trip to do marketing.
I mean, maybe, but like also a lot of them go to Europe because like one, they are European, and two, there's like EuroLeague is a real. I mean, just like the CBL, just like Chinese basketball is real. Like, and also like it's I don't know. To me, it's like at this point we are decades into like a cross-pollinated.
Chinese basketball is real. It can hurt you. It's real. It's
yeah. The like like Starbury had years there. I learned recently. I was wondering what happened to Jimmer Fredette, who was like an NCAA Player of the Year when we were like 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And because he's
went
also
to China.
Yeah, and like was like an incredible player there. And it was because he was too small to be the kind of dominant player here in the US, like in the NBA. Like the size is wrong. No, it's cool. It's exciting to see also that like the ball's getting global. Or is it continuing to get global?
Yeah, I mean, ball has always been global, but it's cool that these guys are going to China and experiencing it for all of its glory, like your boy is going to be doing in September. It is what it is, Some for offseason stuff, I guess. Like we get some U.S. players locally in Eastern EU, but it's the assumption it's guys who don't yet make it to the NBA. What is this jump scare?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Approval of congressional Democrats is down to a historic low of just 19%. Crazy.
I will say, a lot of room to grow.
Yeah.
I mean, because 19 is it's getting lower to 0, and 0 is the lower bound of approval rating. So that's a lot of room to go up. That's all I'm saying.
Wait, this isn't 19 plus. It's like
19.
Even the approval is like 19%, right? That's what no.
This is approval.
This isn't net.
This is 19 out of 100 people.
No,
say that they approve.
This isn't net, is what I'm saying. There's no way this is.
No, net would be
net is way net is like
net is not net is like negative like 30 40
yeah there's no way.
Net is Antarctica temperatures. Net is
It's
reading the
you mean minus 31 net?
Yeah.
Because you don't mean like plus 31, because they are underwater by a lot. Yeah, nothing but net. I mean, yeah, there's only they can pump these numbers higher. I think we can get to a historic 0% approval rating, 100% net disapproval rating, like -1. The bottom is -100. And I think we are slated to get there. We are looking to get there. And, it can happen. And I'm excited to see what that looks like. Well, there is.
I mean, I will say that, like, there's like an interesting, like, of all people, like, it was, I saw, like, Derek Thompson alluded to this in a post today, but that, like, there is a truth to the idea that, like, all right, if the Democrats become this hated, that makes it that much, like, it makes insurgents in the party like that much stronger. Like, people who credibly claim an opposition, people who credibly claim that they are on the other side of the establishment. Like, essentially, right? The shorthand of what I'm saying is that the easiest way to, like, boost your favorables as a candidate, or to make yourself like a particularly, viable political figure in pretty much any context now, is to just get in front of a camera and say, fuck Chuck Schumer. That's like being only a little bit glib here, but it is more or less true. That's what that 19% means. It's not that 19% of people, like, only 19% of people think that, like, taxes should be higher or something.
Yeah, I think that the Democrats have a long way to go. I'm positive about it. I think that they will work tirelessly to make sure
I think Lucy's going to let Charlie Brown kick the football this time. I really do.
I think even the galvanizing force that's supposed to be there, like the populist leftist momentum that's supposed to be there from the likes of AOC, needs to keep spiking the football. And hopefully we can see how unpopular the party can get. I have no more confidence in the future of America, so I'm just entertaining myself, I guess. Let's see where it goes. Talk about Kanye, you simps. What? Talk about Kanye. What the fuck did Kanye do now? Let's see. Friend of the show, Christian Devine, had a...
I'm New York Times op-ed author Brett Stevens, and I recently wrote the piece, No, Israel is Not Committing a Genocide in Gaza, and I've gotten some backlash to it, and I'd like to kind of respond. Of course, I try to be fair and balanced in my opinion pieces, and so when I hear news of Palestinians coming out of Gaza, I like to take my fingers, put them in my ears, and go, la, 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 la. That way, I don't absorb any of the bias. So in my article, I wrote that Israel isn't committing a genocide because they've only killed, by some estimates, 60,000 people. And they could have killed a lot more. I mean, if you were going to kill people, you could kill more.
True.
That's why it's not a genocide. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, if it was really a genocide, they would have to kill everybody. The UN's definition of genocide also includes intent. And they didn't say they were trying to. They just did on accident. And that kind of just happens. So to me, your arguments don't make sense unless they kill everyone and they said they were trying to.
Yeah.
Also,
which, by the way, by those estimations, the Holocaust is also not a genocide.
It is. Well, that's part of, like, the whole, like, Stevens thing, is that, like, you just have to do. I mean, this is also, I mean, one of the things I despise the most about, like, the current state of the discourse is that everybody pretending like genocide is all of a sudden, just because genocide is a contested term, like many, legal or historical terms, however you want to categorize it, that because there is some measure of contesting what it can mean, that it actually just means that it's not actually a concept. That, what is a concept? What is basically the level that the conversation gets to.
Everyone turns into Jordan Peterson when they want to talk about genocide. What is
when Miss Piggy doesn't let me leave the house?
Yeah.
Is that genocide?
It's just like,
is that genocide?
It's so morally bankrupt, especially at this point. And it's like, I don't know. I think everyone is just basically relying on the fact that because America is the great evil and they are not even remotely interested in allowing any sort of justice to take place here, that they feel confident that they can just, like, get away with saying whatever the fuck they want. They're speaking like they will never get tried in Nuremberg. Okay, even though we're living in the fucking post-Nuremberg universe, we're living. And
there's also, by the way, been other things that people have determined as genocide since then. I mean, like, I would argue, like, so, you know, the I think, like, liberal order of the contemporary, like, of, like, this era, or that until this era, pre-October 7th, you know, like, the Rwandan genocide is what people point to.
Yeah.
And then I would also say, though, that, like, as listeners of Blowback Season 5, I know people call the Khmer Rouge's rule. They say that they committed genocide. And that is also, like, you know, it's a little bit more complicated because most of the victims of the Khmer Rouge were themselves Khmer, or, you know, ethnic Khmer in Cambodia. But, like, they also did target minorities, Chinese minorities, Vietnamese minorities, and so on, for, you know, like they targeted them for destruction as those groups, essentially. It's not like, again, you could argue about, like, to what extent one fits a definition super precisely or not, but, like, the idea that, like, all of us, that this label is, like, off, that it's just, like, it's actually, like, it's just too contested or too only tied to the Holocaust, is so absurd.
There has been successful genocide designations in international courts of law for much smaller numbers of people at this point. It's ridiculous. And there are plenty of things that even America has done that would be considered genocide or genocidal or whatever you want to fucking call it. But because it's America doing it, it's different. But in this circumstance, it's not even America doing it, it's Israel doing it. So obviously there's a different reaction to that sort of thing because it's not the global hegemon engaging in such actions. Obviously, morally speaking, the Korean War, I think, is a genocide. And what America did is unconscionable there. And the morality for both the Korean War and also what Israel's doing right now is clearly evil.
In season 3, we interviewed Bruce Cummings, who is, like, in America, like, the greatest living scholar of Korean history, and probably in America the greatest living or deceased scholar of Korean history. And when we asked him straight up, was it a genocide? He said yes. And, you know, it is, again, like, there was a goal, which was essentially to, like, thin and demolish the civilian population as much as possible, to, like, to eradicate. I mean, it's not pleasant to talk about because it literally was just, like, American. I mean, it was a continuation of a lot of tactics that were used against, like, a more approved enemy in the end of World War II with, like, our total destruction bombing campaigns in Japan. But there's, you know, continuity then having us apply that in a Cold War context against fucking, like, you know, starving Chinese volunteer soldiers and like, Koreans who just happened to be on the wrong side of the parallel, which, by the way, also, like, it was a genocide that it is fair to say extended below the parallel as well, because it's not like the parallel was itself such a neat dividing
Jeju
line
Island
in that war.
And numerous other massacres
exactly.
The American military-backed, like, South Korean puppet state committed. There were numerous atrocities, some of which they still shelter the Truth and Republic on. And there was never, like, a truth and reconciliation committee implemented for any of those things, right?
No, like, and, well, I mean, in Korea, it's complicated. South Korea, it was especially complicated because of the fact that, like, the government there, like, who are the parties within it that, like, were in dialogue with America that would have been able to do such a thing? I mean, at the time of the Korean War, when there were very credible evidence-based allegations that the United States was using germ and biological warfare, the Soviet world, I mean, like, the Soviet bloc and the Asian communist states put together a commission called the ISC that was led by one of the most famous biologists in the world at the time, Joseph Needham, to do more or less this. And that's not Truth and Reconciliation. I mean, that was an investigation into specific atrocities, but, like, you know, that was rejected out of hand and ridiculed in the Western press totally. And so the idea that there was going to be some kind of process where we were going to, like, seriously evaluate all the atrocities that, like, we ourselves committed on an even grander scale than, you know, than using biological and germ warfare it's just hard to fathom. And, you know, now, like, I mean, we don't do that. We make movies like the one with Jonathan Majors, Devotion, that, like, truly, that is about like the air war of the Korean War, that at like no real point kind of addresses like, well, what was the on the ground reality of the destruction caused by that air war?
Yeah, but they're not humans. They were, I can't believe America has been using the same slur for every Asian country that we have pummeled into oblivion since the Philippines. Like the G word, I didn't know that it originated in the Philippines, and then it moved into Vietnam. It moved into Korea and then Vietnam as well.
It comes with America. It follows America. I mean, there are people I know who say that it comes not from the Philippines, but from a different. I forget what the other
different Asian.
No, not. Conquest? I think not even Asian. I forget what the other.
Someone said it comes from Hanguk. I don't think so. I think there's evidence that it was being used by Marines like as a slur.
Oh yeah, but it comes out of like this. It is because like the original, like American Empire like is obviously like begins in like a real sense, or what we think of as American Empire, with the dispossession and the eradication of Native Americans, and then you have the kind of process of the Caribbean, if not colonization, but I mean the takeover of islands like Puerto Rico. The book How to Hide an Empire by Daniel Immerwahr is a really good read about this. But then you also have like Manifest Destiny was also at this time in the late 19th century about the Pacific. And it's it makes total sense that a slur for describing the subjects of these places where we come from would come out of Asia and would then follow America wherever it goes. No.
Oh.
It was.
Oh, okay. Place. Okay. No, man. Why is it that whenever I say a slur and then I say like the G word or whatever, everyone tries to play this guessing game? It's like there's a reason why I didn't fucking say it out loud, chat. Calm down. All right. Eric, let's finish this.
If you would like to check out some of my other extremely unbiased pieces, check out For Israel, It Pays to Be a Winner, or Israel Had the Courage to Do What Needs to Be Done, or We Should Want Israel to Win, even.
Or what was it when he called Arabs like a parasitic force? In one of these pieces, Bret Stephens famously literally says like Arabs are like an insect.
Oh, that was his people can look at his Wikipedia page. It's astonishing that the New York Times still gives him a columm.
Oh, was that Thomas Friedman? Did I get it wrong? One of those New York Times guys. Thomas Friedman, Ross Douthat, and Bret Stephens have all been doing the same fucking.
Well, no, Ross Douthat is now saying that actually Israel's just war is now unjust.
No, but have you read it?
Yeah, it's horrible. Man.
Yeah, if you read it, the title actually snaps you back. The title is a bait and switch.
Yes.
Because the entire fucking piece is like defending it. Actually, it's not unjust at all. It's totally just because Hamas are a parasitic force of barbaric rapist monsters.
Well, this is like the Matt Iglesias like argument about how like there's like, oh, the facts have changed. And so now, even though my original opinions and my original conception of how all of this worked, like the mental model, a phrase that guys like that tend to use.
Yeah.
Like that. It's like that. Well, I've just adjusted it now that new facts have come out. And there's no possible, I will say one of the things about the famine shit in particular that drives me fucking crazy is, and it really, really makes me quite sad, is that famine is not like a thing that just happens suddenly. It's not a.
It takes time for people to start fully starving.
Exactly, like food stocks exist; they have to dwindle, and then on top of like the food stocks dwindling, once like a lot of the official, the official aid, let's say, like there's clearly like there have been all of these different ways that Gazans have been trying to make it work and stay alive, that are just what people do in these crazy, desperate situations. And, it's not like all of a sudden like, oh, well, famine, if you're saying that there's famine in Gaza, that means that like people like that hundreds of people are falling over every day and drop dead because of it. Like, that's not what that means. In fact, the reason that you call it out and that you identify it very loudly before it happens is to prevent such an outcome.
Yeah. I do want to talk about this right now because it it corresponds to like one of the news stories of today, which is Israel's putting a pause on the fucking famine. I guess they're like letting in aid, and even then they're letting in aid mostly through through airdrops, which is again dangerous and it's already killing Palestinians.
It's dangerous theater. It's just they kill. It kills as many people as it feeds. It feels like.
Yeah, and then there's also there has been this past week of condemnations coming in. Too little, too late. Many of those condemnations are because there's been so much like radio silence on this issue, despite the severity of the crisis. It feels like there's a change of attitude here, but when I think about it, it's no different than when people were like, Mr. Netanyahu, please stop during the first Biden term, right? And these guys, I think, are just like, this is just the modus operandi, you know, where you just kind of, when it gets to a point where it's undeniable, unavoidable, imaginable cruelty, you just turn around and you're like, oh, we're going to recognize the state of Palestine, with like all of these different ridiculous qualifiers as well that correspond to Israel's goals of dominance regardless. And then that's it. You know, they turn around and they offer a little bit of aid in and then go back to the ethnic slaughter. And it's,
I mean, I also, there's no like sense of like, well, what about, I mean, is like tomorrow, like speaking figuratively, I mean, just like at any point in the future, like the place is uninhabitable. Like the aid thing is the crisis du jour. It is the crisis of the moment, and it's a fucking awful one. But like the reality is that like groundwater supply is poisoned. All of the roads unusable. No habitating structures. The like who knows all the asbestos and other shit that's been like, you know, released into the environment. All of the fishing and all of the ocean, you know, like the waters are polluted. I mean, it's really there's a degree to which also refocusing it on this like now immediate conversation about aid and like the pauses and all this stuff. Again, it's just like it's more can kicking from people who have only been kicking the can since fucking October 2023. They would rather kick the can, by the way, and they would rather like blame the people who get mad at them in their Twitter mentions than admit for even a goddamn second, for a single second, I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong. I don't to like
for me, I'm gonna say something extreme here. If someone like Matty Iglesias overnight was like, "This is unconscionable. This is a genocide," I was, you know, even if he didn't say he was wrong, and then he just kept it pushing and didn't respond to people who were like, "Dude, what the fuck? I can see your tweets from yesterday when you were saying it's awesome and good and we should starve more children." He never responded to those guys at all, and he just almost magically overnight turned into the advocate. I obviously would not trust them, but I also wouldn't spend any time fucking shitting on them. Okay? Like I'd be like, all right, who cares? Just keep it pushing. You know, the Owen Jones method, you say. Yeah, exactly. It's like at this point, like maybe I'm too pragmatic, and some people might get mad at that, but I just don't care what people have said in the past. I just want this to come to an end. And I realize that, like, I mean, fuck the media figures and fuck the politicians, but like, especially for the average people, regardless of their lack of interest in saying anything until it was like no longer damaging to their careers or whatever, I just want I want enough pressure to mount so that the situation changes, you know? And this, on the other hand, is not an example of this because like, this is a cynical attempt.
Exactly.
This is a cynical attempt from Ross Douthat, who does not actually think that the war is unjust. Just the title of it says it is.
And also in Iglesias's case, like he's a troll. He's not like his ideological convictions, whatever they are like not particularly bound to like a set of recognizable or coherent ethics. That like the rest of, you know, like us normal people have to do. They're like largely driven by like whoever he has animosity towards on social media.
Also, Ross Douthat just looks like Temu Sebastian Gorka. I realized
he reminds me of like he's like Hugo Drax from Moonraker, the Bond villain.
Israel's war in Gaza is not a genocide. It's a war for a just cause. The elimination of a cruel, fanatical, itself potentially genocidal terrorist organization that oppresses its own people, holds innocent hostages, and will pose a severe danger to the state of Israel for so long as it holds power. I want to see the comments on this. You write of war and justice, of strategy and restraint, but where are the children in your calculus? Not a new approach at all. British naval blockade of the First World War. It is hard to imagine that Hamas represents a threat to the enormously powerful nuclear arm. Even the fucking New York Times, like, squishy liberals are not taking this propaganda and believing in it. Like, I read the Brett Stevens comments. They blistered him. They were eviscerating him.
But the thing to understand about the New York Times, and this is an important thing to understand about the New York Times, is that the people like who run that institution, like I'm not talking about like individual reporters, I'm not talking about like mid-level people who do whatever, even individual writers and stuff. Like I'm talking about like an institutional attitude and a cultural expectation of how the paper has to function and what its internal culture should be that is set by the top. You know, it is sort of known and has been for years as like an editor-run paper in that way. And like what they don't care about like that. This is like what the readers say about this subject. Like for them, this is not like an issue where like the riffraff matters. They have the New York Times has its own like a high-minded, independently acquired view of the situation that like is not going to bend to like whatever the rabble is saying. Now, it's like a kind of a crazy and ridiculous position to take when you consider just how much their opinion page like seems to aggravate their readership. But, you know, from their perspective, people still click on those articles. And moreover, like the people who run the paper like seeing this stuff. They reward it. They don't care that this is not how it like that this is not like what people seem to like. The people don't feel that this is a moral authority that is speaking to them and is representing something out in the world that they want to be put out in there. Like they see their writers doing that. And the more and more that people like kick and fuss about it, the more they see themselves as speaking truth to the power of the mob. And you're just not like,
I mean, this is a way. It's a failure in some ways. It's no different than Benjamin Netanyahu thinking he can go on the Nelk Boys podcast and then like somehow get some benefits out of that to like restore Israel's image in like a specific demographic. It's an abject failure. These guys are basically eroding what remains of their already limited credibility. Every single time they just like scream into the void about how everyone else is wrong and you have to listen to us. And it's not a genocide, and it's actually a just war, but it's like kind of become unjust or whatever.
There's another thing though in which it's like
it's wish casting.
But this issue, and especially Palestine, is like a very critical Jenga brick for like their whole understanding of everything. Because like if you accept that this is a genocide, and if you accept that this was like a genocide from day one, and if you accept that like this was the moment October 7th that like when the dust had like settled for a minute after the Hamas attack, then the devastating military blow that was dealt to Israel, then like what that means is that you're not just accepting that like that, you know, was this like fated thing that you missed. It means that all the kids on the college campuses were right. It means that all of the blue hairs were totally correct.
Yeah.
It means that like your annoying kids who've been screaming at you this whole time are 1,000,000% right. And that the people saying death to Israel on Twitter were closer to like sincere and real moral gravity and understanding where it is than, you know, the smartest people gathered around a table in a conference room on some floor of the New York Times building. Like that is like if you accept that about this situation, I mean, that's part of Ross's issue too. Like, what does it say about you as somebody able to divine ethics and as somebody able to like discern what is like the correct moral situation out in the world when like you blew it this badly? The Iraq War was the same way, by the way.
Yeah,
like tons of.
Weirdly enough, is the same people that got the Iraq War wrong are the same people that are getting this Israel stuff wrong. But given the way that the internet works and given the way that like social media has like basically made it so that people's attention spans are much shorter, we get to see this kind of stuff work itself out in a much faster pace than ever before.
Absolutely.
So now you get to see it within the confines of a year without the conflict coming to a close, and you get to see it in real time. You get the attitude shift in real time, and you get the reaction to people who are unable to read the room appropriately, because ultimately these guys are like, to varying degrees, they're still trying to maintain some semblance of credibility as well. Like, they have to do that. Otherwise, next time they write an article, no one's going to trust them, because they're going to be like, oh, remember when you said this wasn't a genocide? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is that too, for sure. That's precisely the reason why I think, like, in a sea of obfuscations, in a sea of like buried leads, the New York Times will still every now and then, like with its visual investigations team or whatever, offer credible reporting to what's going on in Gaza, specifically so that, like, next time around there is still some semblance of credibility when they have to lie at the behest of Israel.
I will say, comparable to your position about like the idea of like not like going overboard on people who do end up coming around, or who are willing to like start to speak honestly about what's going on. I also think that people, particularly Americans, like, you don't have to subscribe to the New York Times. It's not a civic obligation.
Yeah.
But we no longer exist in a world where there are like a lot of, it doesn't feel like there are practically infinite news options. And the New York Times is not going away. It's not going to like disappear into sand. In fact, like, the New York Times is a very effective media monopolist. There aren't any newspapers that even like touch it in a meaningful way, and that also, are read by leaders of foreign governments. Like, if you and leaders in foreign governments that if they pay attention to what goes on in the New York Times and they take it seriously, and there is something to like understanding that like institutions like the New York Times have got to be like if we accept that they are like, this like powerful agenda sending, hell, even monolithic force in American media and in news media, and that as such, they provide us with information that we need to know in order to be able to function cogently in the world. To me, it does feel like a lot of what people have to demand of the New York Times is like not, I think it's totally legitimate and understand about people voting with like canceling subscriptions. I don't myself subscribe to the paper, but like, I do believe that there is something that's got to be demanded in terms of like, well, what about like actually trying to, in the same way that like it's about like demanding that the BBC like do its job, like be honest, do better, let the reporters who are there, who do see things on the ground, speak openly. Also, don't assign dunderheads with like clear biases against Arab and Muslim life to cover these issues that are so sensitive. There are real, there is like a meaningful reformist critique, let's say, of the New York Times that I think people should be like pretty loudly demanding. And that instead that like, understandably, and in a way that I very much sympathize with, there is largely like a frustration with like the paper existing at all. The idea that there is just like this, institution out there that is private and seemingly, totally unaccountable to the public, that seems to set the agenda for so much.
Yeah, but it doesn't. I don't think it does. I think in this day and age, I don't think the New York Times is setting the agenda necessarily. I will say this from my own personal anecdotes, from my own personal experience. When I meet with like famous directors, for example, or people that want me to participate in their projects, whether it's a documentary or movie or something, they have only encountered me as a media figure from the New York Times coverage on me, right? And I won't reveal any names, but like I was recently talking to a very famous director after participating in one of their projects, and they were basically saying like, what I saw in that room when I was interviewing you is entirely different than how the New York Times has presented you. The New York, like I was angry at the way.
What's the thing about Muslims hiding their opinions? What's it?
Oh yeah, I was doing taqiyya.
Yeah, he was doing taqiyya. That was it.
I should have told him.
He was actually just what he's doing right now is that he's bragging about how good he is.
Yeah,
at it.
yeah. But they basically were like, why? Like, why? Doesn't that piss you off? And I was like, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I call all of those media hits, my terrorism insurance, like, because there are plenty of right-wing papers, plenty of Hasbara outlets that are actively working in real time to make it seem as though I'm like this dangerous figure, this radical terrorist, whatever the fuck, right? So anytime I get any mention whatsoever in the New York Times or in Times 100 or whatever, that like makes those other right-wing papers look ridiculous, look silly in comparison. But the reality is, those are the people that read the New York Times, right? The directors and the marketing managers and all these executives, like they are the people that, I guess, quote unquote, set the agenda for people of above a certain age. But yeah, anyway, the point I was making is like the director was like, aren't you mad that they just like present you as just like a hot guy and not like your opinions at all? Because it's very clear after talking to you for like 2 hours, it's your opinions and your commentary that has.
Hassan actually was just arguing with her. It's like, no, I'm not hot.
Well, my point is like, it was not. It was obvious to them after I had a conversation with them, like that it was my perspective that had caused me to develop an audience, which is the truth, and they never actually talk about that at all. You're a clown. Thank you. Wow, New York Times is garbage. But they were even, they were even shocked or surprised about the fact that like none of the mainstream media reports on things like people like myself, like all the puff pieces ever actually feature like my worldview or my opinions on any number of different issues. And it's mostly just like aesthetics. I don't personally care about it necessarily. Like I don't care that they don't actually cover my perspective, because I think that my perspective would be too antagonistic to the way that they have designed the world, the way that they view the world. But that's it. That's I don't know where I was going with this. I'm fucking losing my train of thought. How does that tie back to you saying that the New York Times doesn't hold major influence over power like they used to? Oh, that was the point I was making. Because it's not a real mover and shaker in the sense that like average people are not getting their notes from the New York Times. It's powerful people that work in different industries that are still reading the New York Times, but it doesn't translate to like a broader audience, like an appeal to a broader audience. Do you see what I mean? Like people like yourself, like Amazon delivery drivers aren't like, oh, I wonder what Ross Douthat is saying about fucking Israel. They see it on social media. That's it. I would say that someone like Sneeko might have more fucking credibility in the eyes of like the average person than even a fucking Ross Douthat. Like has a much larger audience than someone like, Brett Stevens or Ross Douthat, which sounds insane to say, but I think that's the truth.
Yeah, but like I don't think like the New York Times is like, and it's a good like metric of like, it is not just like, yes, powerful people read it and influential people read it all over the world, but also like it is like the paper of record for like people, educated people in this country. And there is, to me at least, like a really like it's the elitist nature of the paper, like the fact that it is like so aggressively surrendered to like its worst instincts on like not listening to its readers, not engaging with like the mass amount of like pushback that they get on a lot of stuff, that like their attitude, they got rid of the public editor years ago. They got rid of, like they have a comment section, and that's sort of like like where they've like confined it all. But to me, there's like sort of like more than anything else, what these institutions want is to be able to like balance being able to speak to this many people and being effective at like having that broad of an audience, like, speaking to the educated masses, whatever. But also like remaining in like part of the inside game, that like when when a CEO needs to announce like a major life change or a policy, like for example, Kathleen Wild, who's this woman who's like a very big, like sort of kind of like a shadow power broker type figure in New York City. Like when it is announced that she's like planning to step down, like there's a big New York Times article about that. And like the people who run institutions like that, I think that part of like, if we're going to build a better world, is like, we've got to like agitate for like an educated elite that isn't like constantly trying to play that sort of like court whisperer role. Like that's part of why somebody like Ross Douthat ends up getting elevated, or so many people on their opinion page are elevated, expressing opinions that are just like out of sync with like not just what fucking you can with what like obviously college kids or people like you and me think, but are out of sync with like clearly what the majority of people in this country think.
You can draw a direct line also of success from the New York Times all the way to a $250 million deal for the Free Press for Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss is at the New York Times. Right. She's fucking annoying. She's playing a role in the New York Times when she's there to like elevate these right-wing thinkers, right? Like that's what she does, constantly chirping about cancel culture while simultaneously, if you're like of Palestinian descent or think Palestinians are humans, you know, advocating to fire you from your college campus position, while simultaneously, like literally, the hypocrisy is so funny always, like for the Barry Weisses and the Ben Shapiros of the world, where they're like have made careers talking about how cancel culture is out of control, how censorship is like a leftist regime, and while also simultaneously never skipping a beat, never skipping an opportunity to destroy the careers of like anyone that speaks to the humanity of the Palestinians or anyone that says anything about Israel that is objectively true. And she went from the New York Times. She couldn't get fired so that she could launch her like.
Yeah, she tried. People may not remember this, even though it was like barely yesterday. But like she spent months trying to get fired from the New York Times so that she could make herself into a martyr. And the Times, to their like credit, they clearly understood what game she was playing and did not indulge.
Or they just didn't do it because they like people like Barry Weiss.
I think that it's because like because this is like their thread is that like it's they like or like the balance beam that they're walking as they see it is that like they want to cultivate audiences or voices of people who are like right wing and speak to more than the liberal masses, because like they do believe that they are too lib, that they speak to too narrow of an audience, that they're not, that they're not seeking as much diversity of opinion enough. Like, for example, Barry Weiss, right? Like, she wasn't the editor of the opinion section. She, I think, was given the title of editor, but she was hired by a guy named James Bennett, who had previously been the editor of The Atlantic. And when Bennett came to the New York Times opinion section, the mandate that he had was, we're going to go for big tent different voices. And so that meant that they hired one left-winger, one lefty person, Elizabeth Brunig. But then everyone else, like everybody else that we can examine from that time, for the most part, I mean, I forget if he hired Tressie McMillan Cotton or whomever, but like the clear idea and the thing that they've embraced spiritually and maintained is this idea that, we're going to support a diversity of viewpoints here. But in effect,
that
what
always is meant.
Exactly.
It always is meant like permission structure expanding on the right with like a little bit. It's, what's really funny? And something that the New York Times and like all these other mainstream credible institutions have always like gotten mad at Joe Rogan over is that Joe Rogan has like really crazy right wingers on without like holding them to account, and it's like Joe Rogan does the exact same thing. He'll have like one kind of leftist guy on every now and then he'll have like every neo-Nazi on immediately afterwards. Like it's the same shit. It's no different than what the New York Times has been doing in perpetuity or any number of these.
The Times has done like and it's not just the Times in this respect, because I also will say that like the New York Times is distinct and it's big and it is unique in media because there's nothing like its size as like a news gathering organization in the US anymore. But like there are a lot of the same kinds of similar headwinds coming from like the higher ups at these institutions, like the Washington Post, for example, where, to your point, it is about like they're trying to expand the tent so largely, but so as to still maintain some kind of distinction from like the Joe Rogan riffraff of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's very like, I feel that people I feel that a lot of these institutions are so obsessed with like how they appear as voices of moderation, and that's a mandate that comes from above. And some institutions are like, the Washington Post, it's gone disastrously for them on the bottom line side, and institutionally morale's very low. And then for others like the New York Times, I think a lot of people like they may be there internally and they may be opposed to it, but like they're not saying anything because like it's the last job, they feel like they got the last chopper out of Saigon. Like they have a job that pays well, that gives them benefits, that allows them to save for kids' college and so on, and lets them live probably in the tri-state area. It's not a like I mean, look, if I had one thought to express in like a real deep way, it's that like I really wish that the people working at the New York Times who have a union, the News Guild, and who have like really for many years resisted letting the union have any input on editorial matters or express their thoughts. I wish to God that some of them tried to, collectively organize and express dissatisfaction with when their paper, does things like let its news coverage become this like instrument of Israeli policy abroad.
Yeah, I think that would also unironically do more to preserve the credibility of this paper as well. Like it would allow, in a cynical way, it's kind of like whenever I talk about the Democrats during election cycles where I'm like, even if you don't care about the fucking depraved actions of Israel, you should still call it out on a partisan basis in an effort to garner support, in an effort to communicate like some semblance of earnesty, because that is what that's how people are viewing this issue now.
Well, that is a good point.
It's the same for the New York Times. Like, even if you are like, no, I love doing propaganda for the fucking ethno state, it's the most important thing that I have to do. If you want some credibility banked later down the line for the next time you want to fucking lie about something and get like power brokers to agree with you, you need a crumb of credibility banked. And in order to get that, you need to fucking separate at a certain point with this unlimited pro-Israel propaganda that you're doing.
I will also say that there is another piece of this that is like worth identifying on Israel specifically, which is that like, the Israeli like government takes extremely seriously what these organs of the press say and think and do. And they have spent many, many years developing very consistent and aggressive lines of criticism so as to lobby them, like so as to make sure that when the U.S. does, or when, for example, when the New York Times does run an editorial, like, years ago saying, 2 states, like maybe Israel should make some more concessions, pro-Israel donors will they will take out a banner ad on the building next to the New York Times building so that it faces the editor's desk. That's a real thing that happened.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, it's the same shit they did in Hollywood, where like they would find who the Oscar, like they would track the routes of people who are in the jury pool, I guess, for declaring who's like an Oscar nominee or whatever, or who might get an Oscar, and they would put the for your consideration ads on the fucking pathway, on the roads that these people are taking, knowing full well that this will like influence their decision in some way. It sounds crazy, it sounds stupid, but like it plays that role in isolating a lot of these people who are already personally completely sheltered from the average person's opinion. It caused them to isolate even further. This isn't to say that they're victims, mind you, okay? These guys are educated enough to see exactly what you're seeing, but I think all of the decision making revolves around their own personal careers, and then when they see stuff like this as well, and all of the fucking cocktail circuits they're going to are like where they're surrounded by not average people that have a conscience on this, but instead people who are invested in doing propaganda for Israel. They end up having this like completely distorted view of everything that's going on. Anyway, let's take a look at the BBC, which is another horrible propagandist for the state of Israel. Israel says it will open Gaza aid corridors after international pressure. There's only so much intentional child starvation murder that the public can fathom until the pressure mounts to a degree where these Western politicians have to come out and be like, this is too much. This is too much baby murder for us, dog. Remember, and I've said this since day one, Israel has realized that given how America has always operated in its wars, Israel has realized that they can get away with saying collateral murder is fine, even if it's like 10x whatever they've targeted, whoever they've targeted as like a reason for why they've blown up like an entire city block, right? 10x, 20x, 30x, 50x, collateral murder is perfectly permissible in the eyes of the rest of the Western world. But there is one thing. There's one thing that is undeniable, which is denying aid. Okay? Whenever they deny aid too much, and the impact of that aid denial becomes obvious, they have to fucking turn around and and do something. They have to move in the other direction. What is this? I saw a graph today to show the number of rapes in Europe over the last 2 years and how every country besides Poland, the only one with closed borders, has gone up to double-digit thousand, but Poland went down by 1,000. What's your take on this?
My take on this, you are racist.
Well, it's just like, it's just incredibly stupid. First of all, I have no idea where the graph you saw, but also rape statistics vary from country to country. Like countries that consider individual instances of rape, even if it's from the same perpetrator towards the same victim, like in places like Sweden, are logged as individual acts of rape, as opposed to many other countries that don't do that, right? So whenever they change something about the way that they calculate sexual violence, it seems like the statistics jump up dramatically. There is no direct correlation, even if correlation does not mean causation. There's no direct correlation with like immigration increasing and then rapes going up as a consequence of that. It's just a way for a lot of people to justify having their racist opinions be validated, to say, oh my God, like immigrants are coming in. Also, it's ironic to say Poland does not have any migration whatsoever, because what the fuck where do you think the Ukrainians went? Like that if you don't consider Ukrainian refugees to also be migrants in a country, you're kind of giving the game away without realizing that you're giving the game away. Why is it that they're not considered migrants or refugees? Is that because they are white? Is that the reason why they're not considered migrants or refugees? But the only people who are fleeing violence from Middle Eastern countries and the global South are considered migrants and refugees? Is that what it is? Do you understand? Anyway, just letting you know that a lot of that information is used
if a lot of
justify the fears that people have.
Also, like, if a lot of, like, it's not a coincidence that this question's asked about Poland specifically, and then like one of the new favorite like blue check like Nazi like video content genres that they like to share now is this like, have you ever noticed how Poland is, everybody's here having so much fun? Like, what do you notice about all these people? Do you notice anything about why they're all smiling and so happy? And it's because obviously everybody in the video is white, and that's supposed to mean something.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't know what the Polish classification of sexual violence looks like as well, but I would assume instantly that with what I know about the way that different countries in Europe classify sexual violence, I would suspect that they probably have a different method for tabulation, which leads to a lower number overall. I appreciate you explaining that to me. I'm ignoring your weird chatters. I seem to have strange opinions when a chatter asks a curious question about politics. It's because many people that come in with this kind of take are most likely not actually just curious, but they're simply trying to propagandize a right-wing, white nativist, reactionary position, especially by bringing up Poland to be like, no, you don't understand.
Poland these days, because Poland is like experiencing meaningful economic growth, and by 2030, actually before 2030, will be a richer country than the United Kingdom. Like, it has become like this like very aggressive stand-in for people who want to talk about like Western and white civilization in Europe.
Which is ironic because Polish people in Western Europe are considered the fucking rapist migrants. Ironically enough, like Polish migration into the UK played a major role, a formative role in Brexit. So that's why it doesn't make any fucking sense when white nationalists now use Poland as this like supposedly utopian society. Also, it's not like every rape is done by an immigrant and done to a non-immigrant. If rapes are increasing, the risk factors are still people around you, and non-immigrants are more likely to be raped by another non-immigrant. Crime is more often committed by proximity. Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. It's like the black on black violence method.
This morning I read a story in Mother Jones. It was a really crazy story about like police departments that charge children for false reporting rapes that really did happen to them, and there's a documentary made about it. It's really it's like harrowing shit, and it's like, of course the Mother Jones story was focusing on this one, like this poor fucking woman who as a teenager was assaulted repeatedly by her adoptive father. And
stop making excuses for gape. I hate sexual violence no matter what the race. So immigrants get a pass on grape.
Yo.
First of all, dude, you can say
stop
rape.
biting the whitest kids you know. Okay, that's that they did that sketch way better than the Grapist. Okay, like don't.
No, this is like TikTok speak.
Oh yeah, I know it's on a live. I know I'm being
on a live grape. It's like, dude, you're talking about an adult topic. Okay, you want to be intentionally obtuse about what I'm saying. Okay, you can have the dignity to call it rape instead of grape. Okay,
or do what the other guy did, which is the normal thing, which is just to like use the star if you don't want it to get flagged or I don't know.
Yeah,
just doing the like. The similar sounding word thing or the fucking like news speak on a live stuff I can't take.
It's like, oh, so immigrants get it passed on grape? No, they don't. Okay, I'll get banned. No, you don't. No, you won't. I'm telling you. If you already got your point across here. We already understand why you said this. You said this to be intentionally obtuse. You tried to imply a thing that I did not say. You tried to imply, or not even imply, you made a statement that claims that I think immigrants get a pass on rape. I do not believe this. I've never said this. There's never been a moment where I've said this. But you want me to say this. It would be better for your position overall if that's what I was saying, or if that's what I was thinking, or if other people believe that that's what I was saying and thinking. That's the reason why you said it. Okay? And if you're going to do that, you might as well use the word rape instead of grape, okay? Use some big boy words. Anyway, having said that, that was not my point at all. That's not my position at all. There's never a point that I've ever made. And you had to fucking fantasize about a point that I didn't make because you think that this will favor your argument here. Okay?
When's this BBC segment from?
This is from 5 hours ago.
In the last hour, the Israeli military has announced a pause in fighting in 3 areas for humanitarian purposes. Now, this is the scene looking into Gaza from Israel. The IDF says starting today, between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. local time, there will be a pause in military activity in Al-Mawasi, Deir al-Balah and Gaza City every day until further notice. It is to allow the safe passage of United Nations and humanitarian aid organisation convoys. Now, Egyptian TV has shown these pictures of aid trucks lining up at the border before moving off, driving towards the Gaza Strip. The Israeli move, which includes opening so-called humanitarian corridors, comes after mounting international pressure and warnings of mass starvation of Palestinians in the territory. The Israeli military says its planes also dropped 7 packages of aid into Gaza earlier this morning, containing flour, sugar and canned food. The IDF released these pictures of that, but the aid agencies say the method is inefficient, dangerous and a distraction. Israeli troops have boarded a boat that was trying to bring aid to Gaza by sea. The pro-Palestinian Freedom Flotilla coalition said the vessel...
Wait, can Israel just unilaterally stop fighting in an area without ceasefire? Yes, of course they can, because they are the perpetrators.
And they, by the way, the unilateral thing is kind of like it's like Israel can do it unilaterally because they have the power to do it. But like when they do it unilaterally, it's also not something that can be that stable or last for a long time, because like Hamas is not like if you're not negotiating with the other side, or if you're not agreeing on like a shared understanding of what it is, then like you can say that you stopped doing something, but how the fuck can anybody like verify that what you're doing is actually like a cessation of activity? I mean, like Israel announced, I don't know if this was the same thing, like if this is the same set of part of the same announcement that was made yesterday about how like they're not going, like they're ceasing operations or whatever, like they're lifting like a curfew or whatever it was about like in areas where they are not operating currently, which is like, you know, weasel words. Like they still allow themselves, even in this unilateral action, like enormous latitude to do whatever they want when they want it. That's the benefit of doing it unilaterally, is that you don't have to abide by any demand that, you know, somebody else made of you. You just do what you think is in your best interest at that moment. And clearly Israel has decided that getting screamed at by the entire world for a week or two on end, because now everybody realizes the starvation shit is real. You know, like they've decided like, all right, we can lay down the arms for a bit.
Yeah, we can let in like a crumb of aid beyond the intentional death traps that we've set up, because people have seen too many starving dead children, like too many starving dead babies So we just have to move on a little bit. It's gross. It's a gross calculation, but don't take my word for it. Let's hear what, where is it? Benjamin Netanyahu himself openly state this. Where is it? Hold on. I had it here somewhere. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking in Hebrew, and that's how you know this is for the Israeli public consumption and not the Western world, is explaining how he is now being forced to allow minimal humanitarian aid into Gaza. Let it be clear that we will achieve our goal and destroy Hamas, he said. Let's take a look. I'm in Mitzpe Ramon after visiting the Ramon Air Force Base, where I thank the Air Force commander and the wonderful air and ground crews for the wonderful announcement they made in Operation Amkal Avi. We continue to fight in the Gaza Strip first and foremost. We have casualties. We also have wounded. I send condolences to the families and may the injured recover. But let it be clear, we will achieve the goal. We will eliminate Hamas. To complete this goal, both of eliminating Hamas and of freeing our hostages, we are advancing in the fighting and conducting a campaign of waiting. In any path we
sorry, that was that timing.
We're conducting a campaign of waiting. In any path we choose, in any path, we will have to continue to allow the entry of minimal humanitarian supplies. We have done this until now, but the UN is making excuses and lying, saying I'm not allowed to enter with humanitarian supplies. Granted, there are open labors, there always have been, but today it's official. There will be no more excuses. We will continue to fight, and we will continue to act until we achieve all of our war goals.
Yeah,
until we complete victory.
He's speaking to his right flank here because Netanyahu's job, like the reason Netanyahu is in power is both because he's a devious motherfucker, but he's also like he represents a compromise between like the two prevailing like political factions in Israel who are not like who don't neatly correspond to specific parties or even like left or right at this point anymore, just because of how devolved and degraded the state of Israeli society is. But it's about like the people on the religious right and the settler establishment who clearly have like they want to go balls to the wall with like everything everywhere all the time, whether it's the West Bank destruction and displacement, which continues apace, or it's the complete eradication of all life in Gaza. Take your pick. And then there's another like side of this which wants to continue and, you know, as he said, escalate the campaign against Hamas and all this other stuff, but also is perhaps a bit more cognizant of the international complications that arise from an unyielding campaign of destruction against civilian infrastructure and life. And when Netanyahu is when you see him do a video like this, he's talking to one side of the faction. He's talking to one part of the tent that needs to be, you know, I mean, they don't need to be because they'll see this video and call him boged. They'll call him a traitor.
They'll call him a traitor. They'll call him Hamas. They'll call him a Palestinian, like Chuck Schumer.
I mean, this is part of why though, like this is like related to why they do so much regional war. Like why it is that like they expand the conflict into Lebanon, or they expand the conflict into Syria, they expand the conflict, you know, in wherever they can. They bomb Iran, etc. Because like the only way to sustain the continuing, you know, like contradiction, which is that like Netanyahu is unpopular, but he's also the only political figure in Israel who can like synthesize these two, you know, these two different totalizing factions, these two different factions that have totalizing, you know, violent fantasies of how Israel can remain safe and Israel or whatever.
Yeah.
Like this is what he's got to do. One question I do have though, or at least one thing that like remains unclear to me is like, again, what I was saying earlier about like the next day stuff, like they get through this like aid starvation thing. They restart letting in trucks or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that like the starvation tactic with the genocide is not one that they can continue to do. Like what comes next? Are they just going to are they going to attack Iran again? Are they going to like kick up war in Lebanon? Like what is the thing that they're going to do to like justify the continued?
There will come a day when the dust is settled and Western, like when NGOs will be able to make assessments of the actual calculated human toll. And when that moment comes, it's fucking over. Like that is basically an atom bomb for Israel. And I think that Israeli officials recognize that. I think that the war cabinet understands, like Benjamin Netanyahu understands that.
Yes.
There's no propaganda that you can do when Western journalists enter the Strip and they showcase the full extent of the death and destruction campaign. And we look at the real numbers, not like the unimaginably conservative underestimate from a crippled healthcare system within the Palestinian health, within the Gazan health ministry, but like the actual numbers. When that happens, the actual death and destruction, when that happens, it's over. No one will, people already have dropped Israel completely. It's already a pariah all around the world. It has been a pariah in the global south forever, since its inception, because many people understand the role that Israel plays for American interests. Having said that, it's also become a pariah in the only areas around the world that Israel cares about, which is the Western world. It's not a pariah amongst the political class or maybe the media, but it is certainly a pariah amongst like regular people. So it's done. And once Western investigators can go and look directly, once Western investigators can go and look at directly the human toll here, the death toll here, the real numbers here, it's extra over. And I think they understand that, which is why they can't have a long and continued ceasefire, because people are going to start saying, okay, now we have to come inside. And
the Israeli and American answer to this problem also is to like continually emphasize the idea of like, well, the leverage we can use to get Israel to end the war is something like a regional peace. Like we will continue to, like Israel will stop doing this, or Israel will back off, and Israel can avoid perhaps the kind of ultimate, like, you know, let's call it fatal blowback to the state of Israel that would arise from like letting some transparency in a real way to Israel, into Gaza. Like they're going to basically try and get like Arab governments to say everything that's happened is fine. And they're going to try, or that like Israel can be normalized and all this now. And that like that piece of leverage and getting the Gulf Arab states to underwrite the tab of reconstruction will be like the way that they settle this, because it'll have been like, no take backsies. We've already figured out like what the solution here is. Like, it doesn't matter that you guys want to send an investigator. It doesn't matter that you guys want the ICJ, you know, like indictment to be expanded. It doesn't matter. We've created a new geopolitical reality. I'm still highly skeptical that is possible, because I don't believe that like as necrotic and strategically inept in many respects as a lot of these Gulf Arab states I feel are, I also think that they are conscious enough that, like, you know, if they give the keys to Al-Aqsa to like the settler movement, for example, that may be something that could be that could be part of a destabilizing force among many other factors in their own countries.
Yeah, that's it. That's the delicate tightrope that they're always on, because like they realize that their populations are unimaginably resentful for good reason towards Israel in perpetuity, but they also, the only way for them to maintain their power, their grip on power as monarchies, is through unlimited security commitments from the West. And that's the reason why they have to, behind closed doors, say like, do whatever you want to Gaza, we love Israel, whatever. But in public, they have to at least make it seem like they're defending the Palestinians, even though it's becoming clearer by the day that they have no interest whatsoever in defending the Palestinians at all. And if that resentment boils over and it gets to a certain point, like Egypt is a great example of this, where
exactly.
like Egypt is just, I think Egypt is a ticking time bomb. Okay, I think it's a powder keg.
It is unreal. I agree completely.
Yeah. The Egyptian population is, I suspect the Egyptian population is insanely frustrated at this point with what the Egyptian government is doing to defend Israel's interests by directly prosecuting its own citizens that want to help, right? There is very little, there's no amount of like American weapons, American money, and American support that will allow the Egyptian military to continue keeping the country stable.
I think a great example of how like Egypt's weird position was that deal that they cut with the UAE to like sell all that essentially like oceanfront land to get a tremendous bailout to help them meet IMF obligations. And it just sort of tells you that like countries that have as many people, that have as large of a military, and that are as geopolitically important, getting bought off like that in like such a naked way is like, that's not it's not a harbinger of long-term stability. Like that tells you that things there are actually probably pretty delicate.
Yeah, on July 25th, a group named Iron 17 stormed the state security's headquarters at the Masara police station in Cairo, detaining several security personnel for hours. Videos filmed show the group condemning the closure of the Rafah crossing, a lifeline for Gaza's besieged population, and the arrest of activists collecting aid for the enclave. Their message was, end the genocide in Gaza and stop repressing Egyptians. That's it. Like, this is going to continue happening with greater frequency. And it will get to a point where it yields. It will get to a point where it will turn into a rebellion if they continue saying like, "Oh, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to do anything."
There's another thing here. I saw a chatter mention this, and it's also true, which is about like a lot of one of the biggest factors that people aren't really considering yet, and it's understandable why, because it's very difficult to. But it's about climate change. And that is, in Egypt, that is extremely important, both because of the issues of the Nile. There's a new dam built in Ethiopia that's also poised to like set like not a knock on Ethiopia for building the dam, but just that like it's getting more, like, resources are not getting simpler there. They're getting more complicated. Yeah. And then you have, obviously, on top of like all of the infrastructure for climate resilience that all of these countries are going to have to invest in, at the same time that like the UAE is trying to like entrench Dubai's status as like the, you know, crossroads / money washing machine of the world. And it's not like, again, these are contradictions that like they don't necessarily end with like the collapse of like the regional order or something so smoothly, but it does suggest that there are like a lot of fucking problems that none of these governments have a particularly cohesive, you know, have a particularly coherent set of ideas about how to resolve. I mean, the most that we see they're doing in this is that like maybe they're dialing back some of the Neom line city, like some of the more crazy adventurous stuff or whatever.
Yeah. George Ibrahim Abdullah said that Greta's coming from Sweden to break the siege while Egyptians are doing fuck all, and he's not wrong. Yeah. I think that the Arab populations are seeing what their leadership is doing, or their lack of response, and their role in this as like a protectorate of Israeli and American interests in the region, while the rest of the world is like doing more. Where you got like white Christian Europeans doing more than the Egyptian government or all these like Gulf states. It gets to a point where people are gonna be like, "What the fuck what's happening here? Like, what are we doing here?" They're not comfortable enough.
Also, Egypt,
in their finances, they're not comfortable. They are experiencing the same kind of volatility that you were talking about with like climate change, economic destabilization born out of climate change as well. That also allows there to be too much resentment and enmity. Like, there needs to be a pressure valve for these people, and eventually that's what's going to happen. Like, George Floyd was simply the catalyst, but people were already frustrated because of a multitude of different factors, whether it be lockdowns, whether it be the economic instability that we're experiencing. And all it sometimes takes is like one catalyst for people to say, it's over. It's the breaking point. We've reached it. Fuck you. And go out and protest on the streets.
And let's also say,
successfully create a rebellion.
Let's also say the closest that Israel has come to falling, like the closest in its history, when it was at extreme peril in 1973, at least in the last half century, it was because of the Egyptian army. I think that there's a real, like, it's, you know, there's a real, like, part of why Egypt has historically needed to be weak from the Israeli strategic point of view is because Egypt is the only one of Israel's neighbors that by itself could develop the military capacity to actually take down the Israeli regime.
Oh shit. Old Barry, he came out.
Oh, well, wow. At least he first, well, listen, at least we now know what he's saying about the hostages.
Oh, wow.
Wait, what's the article he shared?
Old Barry, dude. Wait, maybe he wrote it.
No, this is the.
Oh no, this was the
investigation.
Gazans are dying of starvation.
Wait, go back. What was the first link that he shared though?
This is it, I think, right?
No, it's
Jose Andres. People of good conscience must stop the starvation in Gaza. That's his buddy, Jose. I went to his restaurant when I was in Vegas. Bizarre Meats. Yeah. While a lasting resolution to the crisis in Gaza must involve a return of all hostages and the cessation of Israel's military operations, these articles underscore the immediate need for action to be taken to prevent the travesty of innocent people dying and preventable starvation. Hey, everybody, suck my dick.
Hold on. Barack Obama is supposed to be a good writer. Action to be taken to prevent the travesty of innocent people of dying of preventable starvation. To prevent the travesty
of
innocent people dying of preventable.
He's hit hard times.
Prevent.
Okay, first of all,
that's just good writing.
His marriage is in turmoil, okay?
Maybe you should work on preventing that.
Jennifer Aniston is not throwing it back like she used to. That's another issue, okay? And last but not least, it's really hard for him to say something mean about Israel or even remotely critical about Israel 22 fucking months into
let me be clear.
Goddamn genocide.
I want to have a showbiz career. I want to produce things. I want to make movies, make films. Yeah. And we all know who runs Hollywood. We all know who runs Hollywood. It's no joke.
He does. That's true. He is a Jew hater.
That's actually that's actually been the long game. This is like his. Yeah.
Listen, I as the #1 Jew hater.
Listen, is everybody's seen that photo of me with Rashid Khalidi 30 years ago? And listen, I've been practicing African American taqiyya this whole time.
Yeah, Muslim taqiyya. He is a Kenyan Muslim after all. This is great. Aid must be permitted to reach people in Gaza. There's no justification for help keeping food, water away from civilians. Yeah, Obama finally, dude, he did it.
Well, that's what that Tommy Vietor tweet was prepping us for.
Yeah,
it was like, don't get on your high horse.
Oh my God, you're joking, but like, I don't think that's a joke. I think that might be literally why.
Well, listen, Tommy Vietor is a former spokesperson for the National Security Council at a time that it was drone striking so many civilians we lost count for a bit there. He knows a lot about high horses and when to get off them.
Oh, yeah. Jose Andres, people of good conscience must stop the starvation in Gaza. Jose, also an anti-Semite of the week.
I mean, but he's had like his employee. I mean, in his case, I will say that like this is even a little bit like sad because like his staffers have been killed.
Yeah, his friends,
they've been blown up, and he's not.
People he knows were murdered by the Israeli state while they were literally there. I will say this over and over again. Listen, Jose Andres, massive liberal. I think he's overall a good dude. Sure. Okay. And his food was great when I went to his restaurant. But like, he was sent, World Central Kitchen was sent into Israel and then into the Gaza Strip to operate within the Gaza Strip specifically to do the same kind of propaganda that the American state was trying to do, to claim that Israel is allowing aid in. How can you say Israel's not allowing aid in? Look at this beloved figure, Jose Andres, and his beloved, his beloved World Central Kitchen. Okay, that is the reason why he went in with obviously the Israeli go-ahead, handshakes and photo opportunities, and he went in and he set up the World Central Kitchen inside of the Gaza Strip. They were engaging in, of course, as every aid worker has to in the Gaza Strip, deconfliction with the Israeli military, and they still triple tapped his fucking staffers.
Listen, it's because you may not know this, but WCK, okay? WCK,
yeah,
World Central Hamas.
Oh yeah, the K for Hamas.
The K for Hamas, yeah.
Yeah. And in any case, like, he obviously changed his outlook quickly after that. So he has been an outspoken advocate since Israel killed his staffers. So this is not surprising to me at all. But once again, this is another fucking pressure point. This is another pressure point. It's interesting that the Pod Save crew of former Obama people have broken with Obama himself and the Israel lobby and are willing to make arguments both about the morality and U.S. interests with respect to supporting Israel. More signs of where things are going for Israel. Yeah, they have been. Ben Rhodes, Ben Rhodes and Tommy Vietor have been unironically daggering Israel for a while
Ben
now.
Rhodes, I think people should go back and...
Also, big anti-Semite.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say there's a New York Times story from about a decade ago that was written by
self-hating Jew Ben Rhodes.
David Samuels, who's an asshat. And the profile was of Ben Rhodes, and it was like a very like critical profile, but it's like critical in like it's from the right basically, but it's really worth like reading because even people like Ben Rhodes, who are not like fire-breathing leftists by any freaking means, were targeted very clearly by Israel and its surrogates because of Iran.
JCPOA,
exactly, because of the Iran deal. Yeah. And like there was always, and this was again like a failure of Obama's because he also like his administration kind of like fucked up in the second term and managing the peace process such as it was, just because like they like there's a the journalist Nathan Thrall in his first book, The Only Language They Understand, he cites sources saying how like Secretary of State then John Kerry, he misled both sides, and that there was like a real, there was like American mismanagement of some of those diplomatic relationships, fine, whatever. But like the key piece of like that second term achievement, right? This diplomatic capstone was the Iran deal. And rather than use the fact that they were already successfully pushing this Iran deal through the Senate, that they got people like Cory Booker to behind it, like these staunch allies of the AIPAC establishment in DC and so on. There wasn't like that wasn't like a springboard for more interesting and exciting possibilities in terms of trying to pressure Israel, God forbid. It was instead meant to be like the capstone of a victory lap, in the same way, by the way, that Obama's efforts to ease tensions with Cuba were. That he did everything but stop short of the embargo, and obviously because Trump succeeded him, all of that shit was for naught. Yeah. Iran included, especially. To have done all this stuff to pass the JCPOA and have done none of the necessary political work to actually ensure that it could survive. Yeah. So yeah, I could imagine that his former staffers, or at least the people who positioned themselves and styled themselves as like the inheritors or the preservers of the best part of his legacy, are, willing to say something, they're willing to say that like actually maybe like tethering America's future to Israel as the 51st state was a bad fucking idea.
Yeah, no, for sure. I like I said, that's why I was calling Ben Rhodes an anti-Semite, because of his influence or his role in implementing the JCPOA, which obviously Israel hated. Just like Israel does not want a stable Syria, even if it's directly under the influence of another American ally, another regional player in the region, Turkey.
This is a similar playbook here for Israel's interest to look at Syria in that way. Also Egypt, which is Iraq. Until the Iraq War in 2003, Israel's biggest strategic antagonist, biggest regional antagonist, was Iraq, at least as they saw it. And that's why Netanyahu spoke before the American Congress to say, "Listen, I know something about fighting terror, and we must get Saddam." And they did all that. And it's like, all right, well, look at Iraq now. And it's not the same situation as Syria, but like mostly it is like a playground for competing influences of foreign governments. And in Iraq's case, like Iran has now been able to ironically, considering we were the ones who moved in there, like Iran is now able to project more influence there, just as, in say Syria, for example, you have your friends in Ankara who are trying to be able to project their power as well. But like the thing that is like the common thread there, right, is that both countries, both Syria and Iraq, are so much weaker as states. Yeah. I mean, they're non-military entities as states functionally, as far as Israel's concerned. They are no more regional threat.
The reality of the matter is, regardless of Saddam's weaknesses or tendencies for violence in its domestic population, ethnic, his management of sectarian tensions was to just fucking kill people and arrest them. If Iraq maintains stability and sovereignty, if Syria maintains stability and sovereignty, in a similar way, in a way that's not dissimilar to Iran, outside of Western interests, and they basically developed themselves as sovereign nation states, I think that Israel would not be able to get away with doing everything that it's doing currently. And that's it. That is the major reason for why Israel wanted all of these other countries that presented a threat to its greater Israel project of death and destruction to be pacified or be destroyed in some way, shape, or form. They don't have to do it to the Gulf states, with the exception of Yemen, obviously, because those Gulf states are completely servile to, they've been domesticated, and they're completely servile to American interest, to Western interests. And that's it. That's the reason why they get away with just get away with being able to do their own genocides if they feel the need to do so. And that's the reason why they get away with being able to whitewash or engage in like sports washing and things like that. What were you going to say?
I think the only thing I would have to add to that really is just that it should mean something about the character of a state if the only way that it can continue to exist as such is if all of the neighboring states to it are like weak and destroyed and rotted entities that are unable to like serve their citizenry, that are unable to serve the people there in meaningful ways. And obviously that's not to say that like Saddam Hussein or Bashar al-Assad were like, perennial nominees for humanitarian of the year, but it is to say that like what has taken their place rather clearly seems like it's meant to serve the interests of people who are not in that country. And it's not something like that's again, like, that's a frame of discussion that's like pretty difficult to have in the United States, just because we still speak in the language of foreign policy moralism, even though more and more all the time it is like these aggressive strategic, like realpolitik or power politics stuff that clearly guide what people are after here.
Yep.
And that's part of what engenders the cynicism, is that it makes people say, if you constantly talk about human rights or why you're doing stuff, and then we have wall-to-wall starving children on the TV for weeks at a time.
Yeah, your word. I mean, I think like America's immediate move to represent itself as the global police in the aftermath of Russia's unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine, and then its unlimited support to Israel after October 7 happening under one president, I think played a big role in the way that even like our Western allies see the United States of America as like the world police. Because there are still a lot of people, I think, that just believe that eat up the propaganda. There are definitely people in the populations of these countries that live under the umbrella, under the protection of American empire, that certainly wanted to believe that, like, certainly wanted to believe that, like, America is, it fucks up from time to time, but it's like ultimately a force for good because the enemies are far scarier and far more evil.
And we provide, and also, but there's another piece of it, which is that, like, what do most people in a lot of these kinds of countries like care about? They care about where's their next meal coming from? Where are their kids' next meal is going to come from? How are they going to be able to build a house that doesn't fall on them? How are they going to have healthy and meaningful and long lives? And the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So what states exist that promulgate a theory of how you're going to be able to do that to better the lives of people around you? Remember, there's no Soviet Union anymore, and we're not in a position where it seems like China is trying to advocate like an international like policy ethos that would reconstruct that. That's just not how they think about these issues.
Even if it was to its own benefit, they don't do it in their own fucking backyard. As I constantly point to the Philippines, like they could be engaging in acts of direct destabilization in the Philippines, like
they sell
arm the fucking Maoists,
and they sell arms to Israel. They sell arms to the Indonesian military, which uses them on poor islanders in West Papua New Guinea. Yeah. I mean, there is a real I would say that it's when you have a world without the Soviet Union in it means that we just have like this liberal international order, which means that it's the only force that has been able to like credibly advance a case for, well, here is how like things improve for you person there is the boss of global capitalism. It's the United States. And so, like there's a lot of people who, because that's the only answer on offer to how do things get better, like they're hoping for it, even if they don't agree, obviously, with what like the U.S. is doing to support Israel. Or even if it means they don't have like a favorable idea or a favorable opinion of the United States or something, but it does mean that like the answer that the U.S. has for all of these things, which is like, we'll help you get your bread up, we'll help you build like, strong native industries that will allow you to, whatever, like the answers that they have for this, which which are themselves often just lies, of course.
Yeah. It's going to be really good when foreign capital flows into your country, and by that I mean we're going to give your government money, and they're going to be bribed with like a piece of that money to bring that loan directly back into foreign corporations that will go into the pockets of not even the fucking laborers of said foreign corporations, but instead like the shareholders.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the examples that to me I've thought about a lot lately is, of course, just because of like the green like the green transition is, thinking about like the DRC and thinking about places like Kolwezi in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where again, like the value chain is like it may as well not exist for the people actually picking coltan out of the earth with their hands. Like what promise is made to them?
Yeah. Well, if we improve their material circumstances too good, then it's gonna be too costly to extract these minerals and extract these fucking natural resources that we need for cheap goods, cheap consumer items. So we can't do that.
And if you want to also like add a little bit to it, I'll like give a bit of historical context to it. Like part of the reason that these places don't have the authority or the ability, the domestic integrity to be able to, develop their resources in their own way. Again, to develop in ways that aren't reliant on like making sure that the West will give you money. Those futures, those alternate paths that they could have taken were stolen from them. Because we killed their leaders, because we destabilized their neighborhoods, if not the countries themselves.
Yeah.
And continued to do so because it suited our prerogatives.
Vitor, okay, here, let's just give you the summarization of this conversation. With just 7% of Democrats now saying Israel's war on Gaza is fully justified. Ben Rhodes, who, again, like I said, self-hating a Jewish man, Ben Rhodes, according to Israel defenders, says, why are we giving billions of military aid to a corrupt far-right autocrat engaged in war crimes? Tommy Vitor acknowledges Democrats are afraid to touch this, but if you can actually make an argument why we should rethink this relationship, and maybe it doesn't make sense to send $3.8 billion a year, which, by the way, interesting number. Who came up with that? Whose number is that? That's weird. Who was the guy?
Who was the president?
Right, that was Obama. That was Obama. Obama's number. 3.8 over a decade on his way out, which we continued, of course, because once there's that money is allocated, that will continue and it'll only increase. Anyway, $3.8 billion a year to Israel to kill civilians in Gaza. I think you'll be pushing an open door. He questioned whether it makes sense to provide a really rich country with $3+ billion in military support per year.
That's a Matt Iglesias line, by the way. He's like, when he's talked about this in the last few months, he makes this point about like when I interviewed Obama and I asked him about Israel, it was why do we give so much money to a really rich country? To which I say yeah, that is an interesting question on one level, but that's when there's an answer for that, which is that like they do things that we want them to do.
Yeah. That's also when Matty Iglesias had freshly come from his West Bank trip, and he was an anti-Zionist for a little bit. Wasn't there like a brief stint where Matt Iglesias was like, I think Israel's crazy racist.
I mean, it's a really hard thing. I think it's really hard for like warm-blooded, normal human beings to go to the West Bank and to come out of it with any other opinion, unless you're getting like a settler tour. Like it's a sign. If you see that and your experience coming out of it is that what's going on there is anything other than like, a military occupation that's been going on for decades that rises to the level of genocide, frankly, at different moments in time.
Yeah.
Then like you're not like your human card may be revoked, pal. Like I think
for sure.
you're just not seeing things as they are, and there's something about it that separates you from the rest of us. That's why
I don't yell too much about J Street, even though they're like liberal Zionists. Ultimately, they still inevitably create a bunch of anti-Zionists by doing those West Bank trips. I mean, yourself included.
I was about to say, and Simone, when we were here talking about that, it was part of that experience. The piece of it, though, I mean, granted, I will say, like, J Street has moved away from doing that with younger people. It's just no longer part of it. It's a thing that they did 10 years ago. It's not as dramatically part of their work now. But I mean, that's always why, like, I think if you could, like, if you want to change somebody's mind about this, then like send them to Hebron. Let them see what's going on.
The host argued that the U.S.-Israel relationship is a political liability tied to forever wars, moral hypocrisy, and authoritarianism. You don't have to be a scholar of history of the Middle East to know that it's cynical. when Democratic politicians mouth support for a two-state solution while giving a blank check of support to a government that wants to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip. Yeah, I mean, I still don't think like before these guys also become like one-staters, we're not going to have this like massive sea change among like people with institutional power that will get to a point where they also don't see like Hamas as like a reasonable counter to all of these things. Because right now, as someone who like constantly tries to understand where people are, like where people's moral compass is on this issue, yes, people are obviously horrified by everything that they're seeing, right? They're obviously horrified by everything that they're seeing, starving children in Gaza. They don't like that. They know that Israel's responsible for it, and they think Israel's fucked up for doing that. They don't like Israel, but they still haven't made that logical leap into, well, if these guys are this like unstoppable force of ethnic cleansing, then yeah, that breeds response, that invokes some kind of militant reaction. And until they get to that point, and until they like actually recognize that these guys aren't supposed to be perfect victims, and that there is going to be some kind of military reaction, they're still going to eat that bait every time someone invokes the name of Hamas.
I agree. And on top of which also they're going to like, they're still trapped. I mean, there's a reason, by the way, that like a lot of right wingers, especially like in tech, like that Sean McGuire guy, are now like harping on the word Islamist instead of saying Muslim and stuff, because there remains, I believe, like fundamentally, there is a refuse, like the Ukraine stuff just like really highlighted it. Like there's some people we are allowed to see as human, and then there's some people who are just supposed to sit down, who are just supposed to lie down and take it. And that's it. And like, why are they supposed to lie down and take it? Well, because like their children are going to be, do you see the coloring books? Do you see the coloring books that they give their kids? Like it's that, like that is the logic.
There's still so much like, there's still so much Islamophobia in America and in the Western world because of the war on terror and like justifying the war on terror, that like the average American still has this like weird position that is inherently contradictory, which implies that like on the one hand, like Israel's like the inflection point for Israel's military conquest here, while is totally inhumane. It kind of makes sense that they had to react because Hamas provoked them, because they're scary, barbaric, rapist monsters. You know,
I mean, well, this remains one of the things that I was most agitated about in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, was the number of people, liberals, who kept talking about like, the systematic rape and all the screams of that word stuff. Because again, like it was very obvious to anybody who's like, who's frankly, whose perspective is not blinded by personal racism or just like the ignorance that comes with having been, come up as a political subject in the time of the war on terror and all that, to recognize that, like, yeah, when you start like labeling all of like these Muslim hordes, so to speak, as rapists and as like criminals who are coming to, like destroy your way of life or whatever, simply because they resent it and not because you have kept them walled in with denying them everything from basic construction material to the ability to fish in their own waters, all before October 7th and everything like that. Then like, you are going to create, you are writing out the international permission slip for something like what, like a genocide.
That's why I get so mad when they like, did you see CNN literally had Mahmoud Khalil on, and they were like, will you condemn Hamas? Will you condemn Hamas? Will you condemn Hamas 22 months into this fucking genocide? After he's already served a 104-day prison sentence that he should not have actually served at all. And it's just so gross, because like the Hamas condemnation demands at this stage are directly trying to create a permission structure for the actions of Israel. Like that Israel's gone a little too far, but like, can you really blame them? That's what this is. Can you really blame them for being violent for the past 22 months? Can you really blame them for genocide? Because after all, Hamas is right there. And that's part of the reason why I think it's important for even people like myself and people like yourself to openly state that outside of October 7, like every single thing that Hamas and the Palestinian resistance has done in defense of the Gaza Strip against the Israeli military is not only legal but also moral. It's legal under human rights, international human rights. It's also moral. It's the correct thing to do. Like, what do you mean? It's actually Israel that is engaging in an illegal action even before this genocide, which is a crime of all crimes. Like, Israel going into the Gaza Strip and bombing the Gaza Strip as a belligerent occupier is literally illegal.
And also, by the way, like, Israel's kidnapped Palestinians too. Way more of them than Israelis were taken on October 7th, and they've been doing it for years longer. It's called administrative detention, and it's a process by which they can throw anybody the fuck they want in jail and keep them there. There's but again, to a Western audience, what is immediately going to scan is like more sympathetic, like sans context, the person taken from their homes in a night raid by a guy holding an AK-47, or the person who is taken in a relatively sanitized operation by a uniformed person who, is then disappeared into a prison system that you don't hear anything about. And whose families, by the way, aren't able to go on the press and able to talk constantly about the pain of not having them at home, the pain of their arbitrary detention and all this and so on. It's a very, like, part of what I think, in addition to, like, we were talking earlier about, like, what's going to happen when international investigators and people are finally allowed into Gaza, if they are, inshallah, and we're able to determine something, like, we're able to divine something like a picture of what's happened. I also believe that there's got to be, like, a similar kind of, like, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but the permission space that was just created for people to totally dehumanize Palestinians by, again, like, not listening or examining any context, is not even considering the Palestinian hostages who have been that way for decades at this point, is it's good. It's part of what has made us less human as a population. It has made us less in touch with what I think it means to be human, what it means to be moral, what it means to feel the pain of other people and hope that we can alleviate it and build a better world. Like, it's just, we just decided that they don't look like us, they don't live like us, which ain't exactly that true. They play Call of Duty just like us. They want to feed themselves just like us. They want to live in a free and happy world just like us. But our society is committed to saying and, demanding the opposite.
Let's take a look at what Senator Lindsey Graham had to say about Israel and Gaza just recently, like on his Sunday Meet the Press circuit that he participated in.
President Trump's.
And then after that, I'm going to make my Jewish guest, Noah, read a Felix tweet because I can't do it myself.
All right. You read one of my own tweets.
Yeah.
Netanyahu to, quote, finish the job this week. I know that you are in touch with President Trump. You're in touch with Israeli officials. What are you anticipating is going to happen next? What does finish the job mean, Senator?
Oh, yeah,
Well, I talked to Cindy McCain last night. Here's some good news for the people in Gaza. Humanitarian quarters are now going to be open. Israel's going to work with the UN, the World Food Program, to get some food into these people who need it. But I think what the topic we're talking about today is a change in strategy. I think President Trump has come to believe, and I certainly have come to believe, there's no way you're going to negotiate an end to this war with Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization who is chartered to destroy the state of Israel. They're religious Nazis. They hold Israeli hostages. I think Israel's come to conclude that they can't achieve a goal of ending the war with Hamas that would be satisfactory to the safety of Israel. And if they're going to do in Gaza what we did in Tokyo and Berlin, take the place by force, then start over again, presenting a better future for the Palestinians, hopefully having the Arabs take over the West Bank and Gaza. But I think going forward, Christian, you're going to see a change in tactics, a full military effort by Israel
change in
to
tactics,
take Gaza
very
down
different
like
than
we did in Tokyo and Berlin.
I like that he said a change in tactics, and then he just described the exact tactic that Israel has applied so far as though it's a fucking significant change in tactics. Like, there is no more that they could do in terms of bombing the Gaza Strip. They have already done exactly what he's talking about, which is like Tokyo and Dresden. Okay.
Senator, president.
Which is the reason why I said it is like, here is Representative Dan Goldman says, Gaza is on the brink of mass starvation. Israel and the U.S. and the international community must collaborate to ensure a massive surge of humanitarian relief immediately. This war must end. And let's be clear, Hamas can end it today. Fuck you.
Not true. Not true. All right.
Here's what Felix said.
Israel obviously deserves a Dresden aerial campaign every day for a generation, but we're even more fucking rotten as a country. I can't think of very many places where the elected officials would be surprised that a genocide they facilitated could end up looking bad.
And then he says, as I said before,
I hope this at least causes some aid distributed by someone other than the sociopathic criminals of the Gaza, the GHF. But this whole act is like John Wayne Gacy doing a tearful PSA for missing young men in the Chicagoland area. I think that's about right. I mean, there is like...
I just saw the first thing that he said, which is, I can't read that.
I will say that, like...
Given my background.
Yeah. Okay. I think one of the things that's just kind of nuts to me is the degree to which it is still persisted among the American political and media class that Hamas could end this if they wanted to. That that lie is to me one of the more crazy ones that people are trying to pull off in July of 2025. Israel has said that that's not the case. They say it over and over again.
But no one repeats that truth in the Western media, and that's precisely what it is. Like, it's just like this is only talked about here, right? Like, I am one of the few outlets that consistently, alongside Drop Site and Democracy Now, Sam Cedar with the Majority Report, like there are very, very few media outlets, none of which are mainstream, that actually correctly talk about Israel's role in spoiling the ceasefire negotiations. Zeteo as well. That most people are just completely deluded. They don't even think about it. I don't think. Like, they just don't. They don't care to think about it. I think some people kind of understand it. Maybe they're frustrated. Like, why isn't this happening? Why is there no ceasefire? But if all of these reputable institutions and trusted officials, like all the way from Anthony Blinken to Witkoff and the Trump administration, in unison is saying it's always Hamas that is the responsible party for violating these ceasefire negotiations or not coming to the table and making ridiculous demands without ever revealing what those ridiculous demands are, by the way. Because the ridiculous demands are a permanent cessation
what ends
of
up
hostility.
happening, and this has been the way it's worked now for the last few times that this has happened, has been that Israel and the U.S. claim Hamas did something, the negotiations, that Hamas demanded too much, or that Hamas wanted a pony or something like that. And then you just have to go and look at what Jeremy Scahill says to essentially get anything, to get the truth, to get anything resembling an actual breakdown of what happened there. Because also, by the way, the Western news media, I think when it comes to sort of, again, it's related to the idea of how oh, well, they're crazy Islamists. They're not rational people. They're they're committed to the destruction of Israel. They've all these crazy ideas, and they rely on those really crude racist assumptions to, suggest oh yeah, well, there's no way that we could figure out a cease, that a ceasefire could be with them. You kidding me? Certainly not.
Phil Gordon, White House, NSC, and State Department under Biden.
He was Kamala's top foreign policy person.
Says, even if this leads to a meaningful change, still obviously to be determined, the Israeli government's decision in March to break the ceasefire, blockade Gaza, and escalate militarily will prove to have been catastrophic. It made no real difference against Hamas, led to immeasurable additional suffering in Gaza, failed to free any hostages, further divided Israeli society. I don't know if it... Is Israeli society that divided?
It is, but not in the way that not in a productive way. I'd put it that way. It's divided along the axis of kill them all and kill them all. You know, it's not. I would also say that the other piece of what makes Israeli society is it needs this conflict to function, because it's also not it's not a country with a lot of it has extremely high income inequality. It has like it's what remains of its welfare state within like the 48 borders is like being eviscerated all the time. And by the way, like a fifth of the people who live there are Arabs, and those people are, I mean, like many, like they were already, most of them not particularly enthusiastic, to put it mildly, about participating in, like being citizens or being subjects of the Israeli state. And many of them now are like, they see no future, no hope whatsoever. So it's like Israel is divided, certainly, but it's divided in such a way so that like it's not like stopping the way that it's like barreling toward this, like, again, like this very like Third Reich style kind of future.
Yeah. This is coming off of Barak Ravid, the Israeli occupying forces' very own Barak Ravid, saying the IDF is going to implement humanitarian pause in the fighting in several population centers in Gaza starting Sunday morning and until Sunday evening to allow the UN and other aid organizations to safe access delivery of aid, Israeli officials tell me.
I also like the phrase population center.
Yeah.
That's like it sounds, it's such a, I mean, it's just insane military jargon.
Yeah. It's truly horrifying what we have done to the Palestinians and what we have allowed Israel to do to the Palestinians, what we've given Israel the weapons to do to the Palestinians. So, I don't know. There is no...
Wasn't there brain rot you wanted to show me?
Well, that was Umama Sume, but that's later in the day. So when you come back from lunch,
we'll do it.
Still live, that's when I'll do it. Yeah. Nicholas Wise says the UN, so the same organization that's being blamed by Israel for mass starvation in Gaza for not distributing aid, is now being entrusted with distributing aid. Strange that. Genocidal state in need of a Hasbara tune-up, which of course was bullshit to begin with. It was complete bullshit when they were like, they're not allowing...
Andala.
Well, there was a Wall Street Journal story last year that just like was the big one in the Western press that said that like Israeli sources say...
I'm Israeli, and I can say there's a debate right now in Israel about the starvation. People are really unsure of how it happened and who was responsible, but they don't want people to starve.
Kamti baboker, I woke up, and I see the starving.
It's insane that this is the only thing that wakes them up, but somehow it works, so y'all have to keep pushing. Damn, that's crazy. I guess like when you do see the rib cage of a starving baby that died, even Israeli society's like, this is kind of fucked up. We gotta... Because like... It's such a 1-to-1 for the Holocaust, dude. It is such a fucking 1-to-1. Like, there is literally the exact same, like, starving baby images from the Holocaust is a 1-to-1 comparison in Gaza right now. It's 1-to-1. I mean, you've seen the images like side by side. It's identical.
I mean, and also like Israel, like they do it in uniforms, but like Israelis are like,
well, the Nazis had uniforms too.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like they've revealed, like they do all this stuff in uniforms, but it's like what they're doing is like I mean, it's these insane, bizarre, spectacular acts of cruelty that we're only not seeing, by the way, because because the government in that country had to run a national campaign to remind people that it's a bad idea to post things on the internet that might land you in, courts of justice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of why like the Hind Rajab Foundation and the work they do is, I think, becoming increasingly critical, and is part of why the pressure of this is adding up, because it's like, oh, wow, prosecutors are like, detaining Israeli veterans in Belgium for waving Givati flags at a music festival. And it's, like that is part of this pressure as well as the starving, children. Like there is a, I think that the starvation stuff is just like as a, like this, it sounds like horrible, but I do believe it's the case that like as content, it is something that is more touching to the people committing these crimes than like seeing the devastation wrought by munitions. This
is funny. I've been following the Hebrew Hearts lib comments for the last year or so, and at this point, some of them are single staters because they prefer having a majority of Palestinians and a majority of Haredim and religious settlers negatively polarized so much against your religious population that you stop being racist. I mean, I don't know how much that...
It's a phenomenon, and that I won't deny, but it is like not...
probably marginal. It's probably higher than the number of people who are anti-Zionist, like straightforwardly.
Well, and
in Israel,
again, it goes to what I was saying though before about like inequality within Israel, which is that like a lot of the anti-religious resentment is about like, yes, the control over like, let's say, like policy in the West Bank and so on that they've seen in Gaza that they've been able to exert through like the, the kind of soft coups Smotrich and Ben Gvir. But there is also like a real anxiety and frustration over all of the money that's allocated for like, you know, a bunch of people who never learn basic math to just study Torah all day and like collect welfare more or less.
Yeah.
Like that's something that is also engendering a lot of resentment.
Yeah. I mean, that's been the issue in perpetuity in Israel and like Israeli domestic politics amongst the Jewish population is that, you know, you got these welfare queens that don't do shit. And
This clip is nuts.
Israelis.
Trevor Phillips.
But I think that the issue here is we can see demonstrations weekly by Israelis against their own government.
Not enough, mate.
And the point I'm really just making is, isn't it a bit unfair to say this is the Israelis as a whole?
Stop it. Stop it, Trevor. What's unfair is what's happening to these babies. What's unfair is that image that you showed us. That's unfair. 1 hour from, I've been in Gaza, I've been in the West Bank, I've been in Israel many times. What's unfair is that 1 hour from the hunger, people are sitting down to their unthreatened dinners to turn on the next Netflix soap. 1 hour. So if Israelis want to protest, get in your cars. This is very Bob stuff, I know. Sorry about that. Okay. Get in your cars, stuff your cars full of food and drive through that border and let your own army stop you.
That, or, you know, there's more unique and interesting ways in which many reservists who don't want to fucking tour again could stop that, could make a permanent halt to touring in Gaza. If you're a reservist and you're like, I want to get back to my marketing job and wear my capri pants and, you know, listen to the worst psytrance music ever created, then, you know, there's the conscientious objectors, and then there are people who could do the Vietnam route. You know, there was
a lot of people went to Canada. I mean, look, a lot of what Israelis are dealing with is that there is no Canada next to Israel that would take them.
I wasn't even talking about that. I was
yeah.
It took a long time for people to get there. Yeah. But
I mean, but at the same time, also like Israel, one thing that's a bit different about like Israel and the U.S. in the U.S. in that context is that like Israel has had this draft for decades, and while like class distinctions within Israel do make themselves felt within the ranks of the army, within the units, I do also think that like a lot, like it's the like sense of buy-in that still persists. I mean, even among people in Israel who might know
Israel's Canada is Cyprus.
That's what I thought. I was almost said that. I thought about that, but then like that, it's because like, you know, if you're in Israel and you're like, you know, if you're in Israel and you want to get like gay married or like,
you got to go to Cyprus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, Israelis, like. I still see like Israelis post vacation content from Cyprus because I think that's also one of the few safe places for them to go at this point.
Yeah.
But I think that it is like the Israeli army is again like it's the like a lot of stuff would have to happen, I think, before you get to the point where stuff like fragging becomes like an active conversation.
Yeah. Which I didn't bring up at all. I was just saying, you know,
I brought it up.
Yeah, I didn't bring it up. I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing. Oh yeah, Mehdi Hassan or Senator Cory Booker witnessing the catastrophic hunger and suffering of civilians, especially children, women, the sick and elderly in Gaza has been heartbreaking. The crisis in Gaza must be met with an immediate and drastic surge in life-saving resources such as desperately needed food, water, and medicine inducing. We're all trying to find out the guy who did this. Like, who could it be that allowed this to happen? In the Democratic Party, in the Republican Party, like how did this happen? It just must have happened magically overnight.
You saw the photo of him trying to hide, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
that was.
It's our collective moral duty to ensure that humanitarian relief reaches those who need it most urgently. The strategy of Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has not worked. Oh, well, I would say it has worked because the goal was to murder Palestinians desperately seeking aid in 3 fucking aid
Wait, I'm
zones.
sorry. You're telling me that hiring a bunch of like roided out mercenaries to like distribute aid to not effectively distribute the aid? I'm shocked.
Yeah. Very odd to acknowledge that a country is intentionally starving millions, then calling them an ally. Maybe Rose being descriptive and not normative, but shouldn't the U.S. not be allies with states that use child starvation as a weapon by definition? Isn't this the take-home lesson here? Yeah, I'm sick of the tired platitude. For an ally like Israel, we must not disagree publicly or in the media. Not when there's mass starvation. This is the time for every American to speak up publicly. Prime Minister Netanyahu, let in the food, medicine, and aid. We must not be complicit.
What does that mean? We must not be, must not be?
I mean, what are we? I think
that's not a thing we can negotiate anymore. It's not a negotiable piece of this.
I need the Thomas Masseys of Congress to start entertaining the notion of like military intervention in Israel, so that these guys will then be like, maybe we should stop the genocide.
That actually, the first that's right. Thomas Massey probably would be the the first to like get a bill through that's like essentially like not just like about cutting off aid, not just about like not like it's like downgrading the alliance to unfriendly relations, and also like threatening to like send the 82nd Airborne or whatever.
Someone needs to start entertaining that in a position of power, even if they know that it's not going to go anywhere. So the rest of the people have an expanded permission structure to be like, well, okay, military intervention seems a bridge too far. So what we have to do is cut off all offensive and defensive weapons, you know? And yes, I do not believe a Democrat would ever say that. So that's why I'm saying Thomas Massie could be the guy.
Because Thomas Massie he would do that.
Yeah, I could see him. I could see him saying that. So if any Thomas Massie staffers are in the chat right now, you know, go talk to your boy. See if he entertains something like that. I feel like they would just kill him if he
yeah, they would be like, Representative he gets called into the principal's office. Or no, it's like the scene from Goodfellas where it's like Joe Pesci walks into the room, is like, oh fuck, and just gets immediately plugged from behind.
Yeah, that's Pegasus instantly. Instantly, Thomas, here's a laptop camera of him like masturbating to whatever kind of fucking.
This is you raised though an actual interesting point I've thought about, which is again like the question of like what would be a good pretext for the diplomatic rupture between Jerusalem and Washington. And to me, the answer clearly is like when it is revealed that even more than has been demonstrated to be done in the past, that Israel is like actively spying on, surveilling, hacking, and trying to, you know, covertly fuck with American politicians, like elected officials.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, if that's revealed that they're doing that to like AOC or Ilhan Omar, fine, nobody cares. But again, if they did it to, if like they do it to like a lib, a normal, or they do it to a Republican who's not Thomas Massie, which I suspect they probably do. Like I would bet that.
Yeah.
Then I think that would be a pretty good pretext.
Yeah. Like Cory Booker.
Yeah, Cory Booker doing a front-facing camera video. I've just learned that my friend Benjamin Netanyahu has been spying.
Yeah, the strategy of Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has not worked. We must do all we can to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza as a part of the strategy to save lives, decrease Hamas's influence and capabilities, release all remaining hostages, strengthen Israel's security, and ultimately end this war. These goals are not mutually exclusive. Rather, they go hand in hand. Of course, here it is. That very same Cory Booker. And I mean, even as recently as fucking like last week was when Benjamin Netanyahu was in DC doing media spots with the Nelk boys. In between that, he was visiting. He was visited by a gaggle of congresspersons from both parties. It was 2 weeks ago. Cory Booker was there. Could you have not potentially talked about that? Also, here's Channel 12. Apparently, for the first time ever, mainstream Israeli TV has covered the hunger in Gaza. So I guess that's the reason why Israeli society is like in a state of panic as well. Not out of like self-preservation in the way that like cynical liberal Zionists do when they say like, oh, you know, we have to do it right with our beautiful secular IDF. But instead, like maybe there is definitely people who are just looking at this and going, I don't think this is appropriate. This looks a little too close to the Holocaust. And it has to be stated, I'm not relying on reports out of the Gaza Strip. I speak daily with quite a few Gazans. I can tell you about what they tell me personally over the phone. People who haven't eaten for days, nothing goes into their mouths for entire days. When they do eat, the offer is horribly meager. For example, it might be just lentils for days on end. We're talking about weakness, dizziness, people reporting that they've lost dozens of kilos. And I have to tell you, while responsibility, of course, lies with... Of course. The responsibility lies with Hamas.
Of course, the responsibility lies with the party that has no power whatsoever to let in aid.
Yeah.
No ability whatsoever. The responsibility lies with them.
Yeah, because Hamas, they're there. And
but Gam also Israel.
Yeah, they could potentially eat some of the aid, which is why we have to keep starving children and keep killing them. But it also lies with Israel, he says. Wow. In this sense, it must be sad, in the bluntest, most unequivocal way, even if enough humanitarian aid gets into Gaza, and that's what they'll tell you in Israel, even when enough food enters the Gaza Strip, and it's true, it may very well be true. The problem is in the distribution mechanism. It's broken. It's failed. So tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands ultimately do not get the food. To get any food in those distribution hubs in southern Gaza, you need to be a man, a strong man, and also be bulletproof as well. And also, not only bulletproof, but also tank shells can't
Well, it sounds like
you.
what he's winding up to say is that like you have to be willing to like fight against a mob to get it.
Yeah, and willing to go in and fight in order to get food, and even then you might not succeed. People in northern Gaza have a very hard time getting food. In the markets, it must be said, the prices, in my opinion, are the most expensive on the face of the earth. This is true. There's no place in the world where prices are so high. And remember, we're talking about Gaza, where people there are focused on only one thing, 24 hours a day, looking for food, and simply can't get it. That's the situation. We need to grasp reality as it is. Yeah. It's the way I see it is like that's the last part of this equation is the whole like but Hamas narrative needs to fucking go away. And once that goes away, it's over. It's
because
done.
like that's the only thing that's like got people left is that it's like, oh well, there is somebody even worse than Israel in this situation, and it's Hamas. And that like once you've already given up the idea, it's like, all right, like well, Hamas at this point is like not like really like a like they don't pose like an active security threat to Israel.
Yeah.
And to the extent that they're resisting, it's pretty clearly because Israel continues active military operations that result in constant loss of civilian life.
Yeah.
So there's no like all that's left is holding people is the fact that like Hamas, you know, kids books or whatever like are like inappropriate. That's the extent of it, but I'm not even gonna like bother
from. And that does unironically stem from unlimited Islamophobia and also like the decades of dehumanization of the Palestinian population in general, because like it's a way to say all Arabs or all Palestinians without saying it. That's precisely what they're doing, and that's the intention, and that's precisely why like when Israel does this kind of thing. There are still plenty of people who go, well, they kind of deserve it. You know, people act as though there is a world of difference between someone saying, oh, innocent civilians deserve to live, but Hamas, and people who say there are no innocent civilians because Hamas. There is functionally no difference. And there is no difference within the Israeli calculation, like the Israeli military calculation, and there's certainly no difference within that framework as well, like within the way that people propagandize here, where they go, oh, dude, you just got to, what can you do? You got to starve some people, otherwise Hamas. That's it.
Was intercepted in international waters. Video footage showed activists on board with their hands up as soldiers took control before the feed cut out.
This is interesting, though. New York Times, no proof Hamas routinely stole UN aid, Israeli military officials say. Like, this is internal. We were talking about this off stream last night. Like, this seems like internal conflict within, like, the secular side of the IDF versus, like, the religious forces in the country.
I mean, it is also because if you end up, like, if you have reached the point where you're now at like Gazans, like there's no more food left in Gaza. There's no more ability for, you know, Gaza. Like you can't say that this like Hamas is what's the problem in the food distribution anymore. And people are dying to know, literally dying to know, like, well, then what is it? What is going on? And what was wrong before that we had to upset this? Like eventually, yeah, the New York Times probably is going to be able to get a couple of people to say
it's not the New York Times. It's Israel that is saying.
No, but I'm
that.
saying
that's
like
why I'm saying it's interesting.
But I'm saying that the New York Times is able to get, in this case, 4 on background quotes from Israeli officials who are communicating this, and they're evidently officials of such seniority or authority that that the New York Times is willing to run with it on their say-so. In direct contradiction with what the Wall Street Journal and other outlets reported last year, citing what else? On background Israeli government and military officials.
Dude, by the way, there is something so fucking gross that, like, I'm not trying to be like Mr. Woke here, but there's something so openly supremacist about the New York Times refusing to ever cover the Palestinian perspective, or when they do, say it's a Hamas perspective, it's a terrorist perspective, and then only accepting the framework when it's Israel that says it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's great. Like, do you think, I mean, it's like the...
Like every humanitarian aid organization, every single fucking Palestinian and the rest of the planet, every single person that you meet on the street could recognize this reality, and the New York Times will not cover it until someone who's fucking Israeli says it, okay? Only then is it the truth.
Who's fucking an Israeli?
Someone
that was
who's
a joke.
Oh, okay.
I think the thing, to me, that's a piece of it at least, is like what happened with the BBC, where they did this like huge investigative thing. They had a huge story, and then they pull it. They say, we're not running this, and it's because the subject, or it was released, but then they pull it after the fact, and it was this they pull it because, the person we profiled is like the child of an agricultural official in a Hamas-run government or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, the BBC has no problem whatsoever, like, using as sources or using as characters in a story, the like Israeli, the children of Israeli government officials, or
or directly Israeli government officials.
Right, exactly. Like, this is a double standard thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like, can you imagine Abu Ubaidah like going on CNN to be like, what are you doing? Like, they're fucking raping and pillaging our people. Like, of course we have to resist against them. Because that's the equivalent. And by the way, I'm not saying Abu Ubaidah is a scary figure here. I am stating that he is on the right side of this fucking dynamic. Like, there is not even a moral equivalence between Abu Ubaidah and fucking a random Israeli envoy like David Lammy or Jonathan Concuncrius or whoever the fuck goes on. Hagari, Rear Admiral General Hagari, going on fucking CNN. Like, he's literally on the right side of this, okay? Members of the resistance against the Israeli genocide, prominent figures of the resistance against the Israeli genocide are on the morally correct side of this genocide. They are defending the victims, okay? That's it. Yeah, when is Abu Ubaidah going on the fucking Nelk Boys podcast?
Dude, I want to see Steiny and Abu Ubaidah link.
Yeah, link up and build.
They need to.
He's probably a fucking Zoomer. Like, there's no way I'm pretty sure he's like maximum like 27.
I mean, at this point, I'm not sure they have many people older enough left to take that job.
Yeah, he's probably got a decent understanding of I could talk to him about fucking who his favorite content creators are. I'm sure he has opinions on it.
He had that line about, like, I mean, I still think one of the things that a lot of people, particularly in the media, discount is how well Palestinians and how well people in Gaza understand Israelis and Israeli culture. And one piece of that is, again, that, like, when, the Israelis announce a new operation that
they're saying he's 40. I don't believe it.
And they say that, like, Israel's launching Operation Thing from the Bible. And, like, they're, like, again, they use the language. Ubaidah in that speech that was released recently talks about how people they're using the imagery and the rhetoric of the Bible to mask like their Nazi activities, using that word as well. And I find that to be like these people have they've got, the leadership has they understand what Israel's doing. And I think if the media were ever to bring them on in that kind of clear way, they wouldn't have like these scary people screaming in English like "death to the Jews" on CNN. They would be talking, and they would be expressing what they say already in Arabic and speaking to their own public, making the points about like the rot in Israeli society, and that would be brain breaking for a lot of these people. The idea that like there is I mean, I know that it certainly is for people I know whom I talk with in my own life about this. That like, actually, no, these aren't like, these people don't live and speak like a fucking parody of how you think, Muslim extremists all sound. Like they have like a pretty sophisticated understanding of what the moral rot looks like.
And ironically enough, the ones that do actually speak the way that you think all like Muslim resistance figures do are, and have actually done the heinous crimes that you attribute to like Hamas, are now running the fucking Syrian government. Like, There are people like that out there.
That is true.
They're allies. They're fucking America's allies. What are you talking about?
Or they're like that guy, the fucking like thug who doesn't know how to read and write, who supposedly wrote a Wall Street Journal
Abu
op-ed.
Shabab is like a fucking, the last education he had is like second grade, okay? He is not literate, and apparently he wrote a fucking column for the Wall Street Journal opinion. Abu Shabab dropped out of elementary school, can't read or write Arabic, let alone this fluent level of English. The Wall Street Journal allowed the IDF/Mossad to write an op-ed on behalf of an ISIS-linked gang leader and convicted drug dealer? The answer is yes.
And the answer is also that literacy is not a requirement to write for the Wall Street Journal opinion
page. This is the Israeli newspaper, I-24 News, saying an illiterate former thief with ties to ISIS in Sinai. Who are you? Yasser Abu Shabab. He was previously arrested for drug trafficking and escaped from prison when the fighting began. According to sources, he was an arms smuggler with ISIS in the Sinai. He founded an armed militia in coordination with Israel. It's fucking crazy. It is crazy that like Israel has openly tapped this fucking freak and his brigade. Hamas is still smoking those motherfuckers, by the way, in the strip. And you have people going, oh, I don't know, man. It's just like Hamas is ISIS, right? Like, remember what Israel was saying? It's like, no, this guy's literally ISIS. Like, what are you talking about? And he's working with Israel. He can speak, right? What a dumb tweet. Yeah, he wrote the Wall Street Journal. He dictated the Wall Street Journal editorial.
He was doing a voice memo to their editors.
Yeah. So ISIS is an Israeli co-creation after all. I mean, it's not an Israeli co-creation, but they are suspiciously always there, working in unison with Israeli interests in the region.
Yeah, or like it's a like, even if it's not a co-creation, even if it's not like, run by Israel or whatever, it's a classic case of, it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, extrapolated to include literally ISIS.
Yeah, no,
like Israel's attitude is that yes, we have to hand it to ISIS.
Always and consistently, whether it be in Syria or literally in the Gaza Strip. So what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we talking about? The very figures that you could point to with these like stereotypical like jihadist Islamist fucking attitudes or whatever are actually operating within the Gaza Strip. They're operating with Israeli arms. They're operating inside of Israeli red zones that they've designated, inside of Israeli headquarters that they've created in the Rafah area. It's fucking ridiculous. And the reason why they were sent in as a scourge on the civilian population is to specifically destabilize aid distribution. Like, that's the reason why they fucking started operating. Oh, wait, so you're telling me the former ISIS members are now fighting on the side of Israel to kill Palestinians? This is breaking my brain a bit. It's so funny when there's always like, yes, the answer is yes. No, and it's not just that. I'm telling you that former ISIS members who are drug traffickers who were in prison, okay, were released most likely by Israel to directly create a formation known as the Popular Forces. Okay, that's what they're called. They have an AI image logo. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. They are literal open fucking allies of Israel. Okay. And not only are they literal open allies of Israel, they write opinion pieces on the Wall Street Journal. Gazans are finished with Hamas.
Which, by the way,
forces, which is not even true.
Which also we should say, like more seriously, like, how does this guy end up who doesn't read? Like, Mohammed Shahad is exactly right. Like, this is the IDF and the Mossad, which is or whichever, take your pick. But they are clearly, in contact and working with the editors of the Wall Street Journal to be able to, to sell this crock of shit. And that's where, this is...
But, like, who's reading this and going, wow?
More, okay, you say that, but, like, there's probably, like, people who read the Wall Street Journal opinion page and who are conservative and who, like this is an opinion that people want to read. It doesn't matter that it's not true. It doesn't matter that it's like astroturfed by, in a very real sense. It doesn't matter that this isn't, that every single survey shows that even if Gazans who are critical of Hamas don't want it to lay down its arms because they understand that it's the last thing resembling protection from Israeli
sovereignty.
Exactly. It's all, they don't want to know that. What they want to see is that Gazans are finished with Hamas and that there's a guy waiting in the wings to take over and be our boy when Israel finally wins this war. Like that's the lot. Like there is an audience for that shit. And it, by the way, like it's part of the effort by the IDF and the Mossad, not necessarily just to try and convince new people that there's, oh, well, listen, like you may have had sympathy with Hamas, but get a load of this. We have, there's actually other people in Gaza who want to take over. No. It's about also.
By the way, a Mossad agent wrote this because Gazans are finished with Hamas. Like, not even Palestinians. He can't even get himself to type Palestinians are finished with Hamas.
He's got to do the backspace on that one. No, but it's also about giving people who are in like the who have arguments from like the Zionist perspective, who are solidly on the side of Israel, to be able to point to and say, whoa, hold on. Look at this guy. Look at, it's about giving them another tool in the toolkit at a time when it's beginning to look pretty thin, when it doesn't seem like they actually have that many legs to stand on. And, if you know anything about anything, that this is as fake an article, as fake news as it comes or whatever. Yeah. But, to the undiscerning reader, which is surely most people who read the Wall Street Journal opinion section, this is another piece of rhetoric they can resort to. I'm sure grandfathers are sending this to woke children across the country.
Yeah, to own them in the marketplace of ideas, to be like, see, I told you this is bad. Even Palestinians don't want it. It's like, what Palestinians don't want? To be ethnically cleansed, okay? That's the number one priority that they have. It's not like you give a fuck about what Palestinians want. You're like, oh, they have disagreements with Hamas. They hate Hamas. It's like, that's the only time, it seems, you care about Palestinian sovereignty or Palestinian opinions. You don't give a fuck when even the people that are protesting Hamas or whatever are like still primarily protesting Israel's genocide, blockade, and starvation policies. You don't give a fuck about that. You avoid that. You only bring it up when you're like, oh, but they hate Hamas. It's like, okay, I hate the Republican Party, okay? I hate Donald Trump. That doesn't mean that I think millions of Americans should be ethnically fucking cleansed and starved, okay? And it's obviously not even a comparison that we can imagine because there is no force as powerful. There is no way to showcase that power imbalance between Israel and the Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip. There is no way that I can give you a decent analog because like even China doesn't do it. Right? Like even saying like, oh, what if China was like blockading America? It's just like, it's not. It has to be like an alien force.
Also, by the way, it's like a tactic that like that like we do. Like it's a thing that, I mean, part of, I guess, what feels like so strange in this as well is that it's like there are examples of this in which we like try to actively restrict because a softer, more legalized version of this that we employ on countries around the world is our psycho global sanctions regime. Yeah. The Washington Post coverage led by Jeff Stein did a bunch of really good reporting on how we've created this decades old edifice of sanctions on governments all over the world that has in effect required many countries, extremely poor countries for the most part, to jerry-rig systems of food and aid.
69% of all of the 69% of the global South, I think, right? Like,
yeah, it's an insane, and they have to do all these. You have to go through these crazy hoops to be able to make sure they can supply basic means for this society to persist. Because the U.S. determined that, because of how we wield our sanctions weapon.
Yeah. Also, for those of you who fucking talk about how anti-Semitic it is to make Holocaust comparisons, here is a fucking Holocaust survivor making that exact same comparison, okay? Gabor Mate is a Holocaust survivor. He's a baby during the Holocaust, okay? Here's his own words on this issue.
The Jews were concentrated in this crowded area of Warsaw, and the Germans were deporting people. You know what the Germans did? They offered the Jews who were starving bread and jam to get on these trains and to ship them to their deaths. In Gaza, we've seen now for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, every day, people desperately lining up for food and then being killed. And Israeli soldiers have described how they've been ordered to shoot on people lining up for food. People that were no threat to them whatsoever. People that weren't even close to them to pose any kind of a threat. People that were unarmed.
What? Tired of bringing Holocaust survivors as points? You find one who hates Zionism. I can probably find one who supports it. I don't know. Wait, what? What do you mean? Like, this is not for you, okay? That's not for you, weirdo. It's for the people who actually need to hear it from someone like Gabor Mate, someone like a Holocaust survivor. Okay, that's it. It's just a way to fucking beef up your argument from the optics front for those who need to hear it that way. Okay, because let's be fucking real. If there's something that I do know from my experience of doing this kind of commentary for years at this point, there are a lot of people in America, no matter how white I am, that are going to hear that my name is Hassan, and they're just not going to listen to what I have to say. They're going to be like, nah, that's it. Just like I use the privilege that I have for good when I'm advocating for trans issues, for example, because I know that a transphobic person is not going to hear a trans person advocate for their own needs and their own desires and then take them seriously. There are plenty of people who hear that I am Muslim and go, maybe you're a little biased on this, don't you think? Maybe you're experiencing a little bit of Jew hate in your heart, maybe. Hassan, you know, that's it. My former podcast co-host being one of those people, literally. Of course, he doesn't listen to Jewish people either. He's completely lost his mind. But I think there was probably a point where if he would have listened to like a Sam Cedar type, he would have avoided all of this. He would have avoided nuking his entire career and being a rabid, racist, Islamophobic genocide denier.
And also, like, if the premise is that like it's anti-Semitic to make these comparisons, it's anti-Semitic to say this, to do that, then like that puts like the moral onus on Jewish people who do not feel that way to say so. Because we're the ones that people do listen to about it. Yeah. It's not like, for sure. It's not, it feels like I know that people, there's a lot of people view it as like, oh, well, you're doing like identity politics. You're just doing, it's like, well, no, I'm responding to a world that demands that fucking like identity be like the way that we express this and that it has that rhetorical power.
Optics work is so stupid to act like it doesn't work, especially in a place like America where Americans don't even understand that like you can be Jewish and also anti-Semitic. Like they don't even comprehend that. So use that to your advantage. Just like right-wing racists will use Candace Owens, which is not a moral comparison that I'm making here, because obviously anti-Zionist Jews are on the right side of history. Candace Owens is on the wrong side of history as a black white supremacist. But like the totally calculated messaging analysis that I'm doing here implies that Americans do actually look at someone who is Jewish, who says, 10 toes down that these guys don't deserve to be fucking slaughtered and that it's not in your name. And that opens up a permission structure for them to fully comprehend it. I've said this in advocacy for self-preservation for American Jews, that more and more Americans are responding to the anti-Semitic reasons as to why there is this like Jewish hypnosis blackmail operation that has caused Americans to turn a blind eye, American politicians to turn a blind eye to the actions of Israel. So it's getting to a point for a matter of self-preservation for American Jews to come out and openly fucking say that this is not being done for Judaism, and that like people who are pro-Palestinian are not anti-Semitic.
Yeah, and also on top of it, that like, I mean, you raise it, but it's like anti-Semitism does exist, and like what's engendering it, right, is like the fact that there was that like the state committing a genocide right now puts a Magen David on its on its flag, and it just ends up being like it creates a like. It itself generates anti-Semitism, and thus the only response that I can think of, the only way I can think to resist that, is to like raise my hand and say, hey, I'm Jewish. I know a lot of other people who are Jewish, and anti-Semitism isn't being, generated by the people resisting this thing. It's the fact that like people are learning to associate the Star of David with starving children. I don't know how much more simply I can express it.
Yeah. This is from r/Israel. I live in Europe. I'm fucking terrified to tell anyone about my connection to Judaism or Israel or anything else. I went to the hospital because I've been dealing with PTSD from October 7. And after I said this to the intake nurse, they gave me a headscarf wearing doctor, which at this point I feel is either ignorant or on purpose. Like, dude, do you not see it? You're a fucking Nazi, man. What do you mean? Oh my God, you had a doctor who's Muslim? Oh my God. What are you talking about? it's like saying, it's like being a Klansman and being like, I went into the hospital for PTSD due to being around black people. Okay. It was really traumatic for me. And then I told the doctor this, and then my doctor was a black man. Like, that's it. That's what this is. You're like a Klansman who's complaining that there is a Muslim doctor that was treating you.
What if it wasn't? I mean, what I'm imagining, of course, is that like it wasn't a Muslim doctor. Like it's like he's saying headscarf, and it was just a woman wearing like like a
Orthodox Jew.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's an Orthodox Jew that was wearing a headscarf. And
my God!
But he's a secular Jew.
Oh my
who's
God!
Just as racist, it seems. My rambling point is, for all the brilliance of Israel, first of all, no brilliance whatsoever, could it not somehow get better at PR or pro-Jewish propaganda or something? Could someone please help? Please help.
I'll give you the answer to that. No.
Yeah.
It's the best has already happened on that behalf.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you, it's not coming back.
No.
There's no more Abba Eben. There's no more Paul Newman starring in Exodus. It's over. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like
And it was also literally the people that fucking carried it weren't like Israelis anyway. Like they weren't. It was like American Jews that did a pretty good job of doing marketing. Israelis do not do propaganda. They can't do it. They're too racist to do propaganda appropriately.
Listen,
they're too racist to make good content.
We try putting the Israeli on the TV, but there's problem. And the problem is that when the Israeli person opens their mouth, slurs come out. It's listen, Israel country, we're best in high-tech, scientific research, medical research, and we've been examining, we've been studying why this is. Why when the Israeli open their mouth, the slur come out on TV. And we're working. We have scientists on it, and we are hoping that by 2027, we will have answer.
So bad. Is that why Sacha Baron Cohen is getting buff? Oh my God.
Sacha Baron Cohen's divorce arc is heating up.
He is. Oh yeah. It's just. I don't want to even talk about that. Okay. For so many years, I tried to act as though it wasn't there. Because he did have, on accident, sometimes it seems, very good, sometimes anti-Israel propaganda, unironically. Like, who is America, or was it what is America, or who is America?
Yeah, the Iran Murad.
Yeah,
it's like
Iran Murad is so perfect.
I wrote an article about it for Jewish Currents when it came out. It was like one of the funniest, most like biting and like correct satires of an Israeli that you'd ever seen, and it was the kind of thing that made me think like, oh wow, he's one of us. I was wrong.
No,
I was wrong.
I knew that he was on like I knew that he was a part of like the Zionist theater troupe or whatever. Like after he went to clown school, like he literally did go to Israel and participate in that stuff. And then like some of the shit that he was doing was like obviously very Islamophobic as well. But yes, clown school, literally, that's a thing still. Chatters. I'm a big Sacha Baron.
Clown is more difficult.
No, I'm. It's embarrassing to admit, but I used to be a big Sacha Baron Cohen fan, okay? And yes, he did go to fucking clown school, and clown school is like a pretty difficult thing to go through. It sounds so stupid. It's not, that's like a traditional a part of theater. It's clown college.
All right, I got to lunch.
All right.
I'll be back.
All right, perfect.
Later, chat.
Wait, why is he problematic now? He's not even problematic. He's just like a fucking major Israel dick rider. That's it. He's just a ginormous Israel dick rider, dude. That's what it is. I gotta pee.
I was in Auschwitz about 6 weeks ago. It was my first actual visit there. And I stood at the very place, or near the very place, where my grandparents would have landed in the transport on their way to the gas chamber. And where I, as an infant, almost ended up with my mother. And I've been reading books about Auschwitz since I've been there. And starvation was used as a weapon there. People were deliberately starved. Children were deliberately starved. Now, nothing can compare to Auschwitz and its horror. But the mindset that we can starve people, including children, that's what we're seeing now. You can't compare one-on-one. Gaza is not Auschwitz. But if you talk about human cruelty, lack of humanity, deliberate suffering imposed on people, the energy of it is the same. When I was an adolescent, when I found out about the Holocaust, and I thought, how could the world have let this happen? Well, I don't wonder anymore. The world is letting it happen right now in front of its own eyes. We all have this urge to find some positive resolution here. But you know what? I think we just have to keep telling the truth.
Yeah. What a way to ruin a nice message. How you can't compare Gaza to Auschwitz. I don't care, dude. Okay? Just calm down. Gabor Mate has always been a fucking anti-Zionist. No, that chatter is upset because in that process he says you can't compare Gaza to Auschwitz, but like the energy is the same. The intention is the same. Okay? That's why someone is mad, because they're saying you can compare Gaza to Auschwitz. That's the only reason why that chatter is getting mad. It doesn't matter. It's not a one-to-one comparison. It's true. If you want to get like super specific, super deliberate, super literal about it, yes, it is not a fucking one-to-one comparison, but it doesn't matter that it's not a one-to-one comparison, because that's not the only genocide. That's not the only bad thing, okay? Like, Auschwitz and the Holocaust is not the only time something bad has ever happened. Anyway, let's get back to this.
Let's go live to our Middle East correspondent, Amir Nader, who's in Jerusalem.
Oh, shit. Breaking news. We have, as we did cover a lot of the stuff. There was one other thing that I wanted to say. Trump, of course, came out and hit the, why don't the Gaza's dead children say thank you?
President, should Israel be doing more to allow food into Gaza?
Say it.
Should Israel be doing more to allow food into Gaza?
What did she say?
Should Israel be doing more to allow food into Gaza?
Well, you know, we gave $60 million 2 weeks ago.
Which I thought it was 30. So they gave 60 to the GHF, apparently. This fucking dumbass leaked that it's actually twice the amount. And that's to the GHF, the murder machine that they set up in unison, in collaboration with Israel.
And nobody even acknowledged it for food. And Sarah, but you know, you really at least want to have somebody say thank you. No other country gave anything. We gave $60 million 2 weeks ago for food for Gaza. And nobody acknowledged it. Nobody talks about it. And it makes you feel a little bad when you do that. And, you know, you have other countries not giving anything. None of the European countries, by the way, gave. I mean, nobody gave but us. And nobody said, gee, thank you very much. And it would be nice to have at least a thank you. And I took a lot of heat. You know, when I do that.
Yeah, did you even say thank you? Dying child in Gaza? Did you even think to say thank you to me for killing your parents? Come on now.
People aren't happy about that because they say, well, why are we doing it and nobody else? But I think we had a humanitarian reason for doing it. What's going to happen? I don't know. I can tell you that Hamas, as I said, would happen at the end. You know, we've gotten back a lot of hostages, a tremendous number of hostages, most of them. Now we have dead hostages, and the mothers want them back, and we have 20 people approximately, but that are living. But we have a lot of bodies, and the parents want those bodies as much as they would want their child if that child were alive. I met with parents it was so sad. Sir, please get my son back. How is your son doing? Well, he's dead, but they have his body, and it's so important. It's more important. It's almost like more, but it's as important as if the child were living. These people were, they're devastated. And I said, when you get it down to a certain number, you're not going to be able to make a deal with Hamas. Because once they give them up, then they feel that that's going to be the end of them. And what I said is exactly true. You know, they had a routine discussion the other day, and all of a sudden they hardened up. They don't want to give them back. And so Israel's going to have to make a decision. I know what I do, but I don't think it's appropriate that I say. But Israel's going to have...
Dog, you literally said that you want to ethnically cleanse the Strip. What do you mean? Oh, you shouldn't say? You have said it. What more could Israel do that it hasn't done already?
Have to make a decision.
Just more of the thing that it's been doing.
President, when you were in the Middle East, you talked about the images coming out of Gaza and the starving kids. Those images are still going. Many of them are much worse. Thinner children, starving. What do you see or feel when you look at those images today?
Well, it's terrible. You know, when I see the children, and when I see, especially over the last couple of weeks, and people are stealing the food, they're stealing the money, for the food, they're stealing weapons, they're stealing everything. It's a mess. That whole place is a mess. The Gaza Strip, you know, was given many years ago so that they could have peace. That didn't work out too well. When Israel gave that up, whoever...
I missed the Epstein segments. This is unbearable. No, hold on. We're moving away from this already. I've covered it for the past 3 hours and 22 minutes now. Oh, here is a Daniel Beckner joke. Hello, I am a North American journalist and op-ed writer. For the last 18 months, my damn computer's been autocorrecting all my writing and posts to say that what's happening in Gaza is complicated but necessary. What I actually meant is that it's bad. Thank you. Talking about like all of the people that have been changing their trajectory or changing their commentary a little bit. First off, let's talk about major news. Trump's meeting with the EU chiefs have wrapped up. You saw some of the media stuff. Okay, you've seen some of the media hits coming out of it, but I don't know what this resolution is. But also, there is a major trade deal with the EU. Trump is also still molesting the money. Let's take a look.
The biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, trade or beyond trade.
It is.
It's a giant deal with lots of countries, because as you know, Ursula represents a lot of countries, not one country. It's not easy for you. It's because a lot of very different countries, great countries, but some are strong with cars, some are strong with agriculture, some are strong with both, right? You have a lot of different factors. So we're going to do the following. The European Union is going to agree to purchase from the United States $750 billion worth of energy. $750 billion worth of energy. They are going to agree to invest into the United States $600 billion more than they're investing already. So they're investing a large amount of money. You know what that amount of money is. It's very substantial, but they're going to invest an additional $600 billion. They're agreeing to open up their countries to trade at zero tariff. So that's a very big factor. Opening up their countries, all of the countries will be opened up to trade with the United States at zero tariff. And they're agreeing to purchase a vast amount of military equipment.
We're going to make them buy our guns, and we're going to make them buy our meat. We're going to make them buy our chlorinated chicken. That's right. Every town in Europe is going to eat our poultry and our chicken. They will drive our big, beautiful Ford F-150 pickup trucks. Believe it. Believe me, folks. We're going to force them to make their roads bigger so they're not gay. No more walking. Everyone knows it's woke and gay to walk on the streets. What are you walking towards? A dick appointment? No more frolicking about around town in your walkable infrastructure looking for men. What you need is the straight, not woke tanks that you need a commercial driver's license to drive.
We don't know what that number is, but it's the good news is we make the best military equipment in the world, so sort of you have to do that. I mean, until somebody tops us, which is not going to happen. We're way ahead of every other country
us on the
in terms
roads
of the quality
Europe.
of the military equipment. You saw that recently in Iran, and you see that, unfortunately, you see that often for all the wrong reasons, right? $100 billion, opening up the country. We are agreeing that the tariff straight across for automobiles and everything else will be a straight across tariff of 15%. We have a tariff of 15%. We have the opening up of all of the European countries, which I think I could say were essentially closed. I mean, you weren't exactly taking our autos, you weren't exactly taking our agriculture, and then you would have smaller things, but for the most part, it was closed. and now it's open. It's open for our companies to go in and do a good job with it. I think you'll like them. I think you'll like it. And we will, very importantly, they'll be investing a lot of money, but the military is a big number, but that's one number we're not determining. It's going to be whatever it is, but they're going to be purchasing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of military equipment. They're very important. They're going to purchase $750 billion worth of energy. So that's going to be great. And $600 billion worth of investments into the United States over and above what they have. So, and I think that basically concludes the deal. I mean, those are the main factors. I don't think there are too many other factors, other than we're going to get along great. And we have a great relationship now with NATO, which is largely the same. I mean, not exactly, but pretty close, right? Largely. And with NATO, as you know, they're going up to 5% from 2%. And the relationship is very strong with NATO. So I just want to congratulate you. I think it's great that we made a deal today instead of playing games and maybe not making a deal at all. I think it's, I'm going to let you say, but I think it's the biggest deal ever made. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We have a deal. We have a trade deal.
Yeah, what could we possibly do? Work with the fucking Chinese? I mean, come on now. Have you noticed that they're Chinese? There is no unit on this planet, no organized body on this planet more servile, more cuckolded than the European Union, okay? Like, we constantly talk about the Gulf nation states and how much they suck America's dick. There is... Like, those guys look like brave anti-imperialist warriors in comparison to the European Union, okay? It is so insane to me. Wrong, it's called the United Kingdom? No, for sure. I just mean like the European continent in general, okay? It is incredible how cucked they are, that they would, and how cucked by racism they are too, because at a certain point, like, there is something immaterial about this, okay? By their assessment, their alternative is having better relations with China. And ultimately, they're Chinese, so we can't do that, is the assessment that they're making here. I swear to fucking God. There has to be a separate reason for why they are so servile to the interests of empire that is demanding more fealty, okay, from its vassals right now in broad daylight. It's crazy. The EU will buy $1 trillion in U.S. weapons. In exchange, the U.S. will impose 15% tariffs on imports from the EU. What a deal von der Leyen has negotiated. China, in the meantime, has been able to get everything it wants from Trump. The difference between having and not having a colonized mind. It is crazy, dude. It is fucking insane. EU and the US reached tariff agreement to avert trade war. Like, do the Europeans in the chat, do you guys see this stuff and does it not piss you off? I am of the Yanis Varoufakis mindset that, like, clearly, hold on. Doors open. I am of the Yanis Varoufakis mindset that, like, the DM25 mindset that, like, the EU could be technically a force for good in a collaborative effort against the United States. But it seems like the formative reason why it was designed is to behave like a organized body that is totally servile to U.S. interests in the interest of upholding capitalism. Okay? I don't understand how average, regular-ass Europeans that come from this, like, long tradition, that have national mythology that extends far beyond the United States of America, how they could just, like, sit around and be like, yeah, no, we're just fucking dogs. We're dogs. We need to give our masters more, my lord. We need to give our masters more, my lord. Is cuck porn. It is cuck porn. It doesn't make any fucking sense. China, U.S. to extend tariff pause as Sweden talks by another 90 days. Yeah, China got another extension on the tariff pause, by the way, because they're just like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. It's crazy. It's crazy. What I worried about has happened. A completely unequal deal, in air quotes, between the U.S. and the EU. Have no doubt, asymmetric 15% tariffs are an EU defeat. When the law of the jungle prevails, the weak have little choice than to accept their fate. But Europe could potentially have been strong, either alone or in a coalition with others. It would have had to be ready for stormy waters, but it would have gotten a better deal at the end and sent a strong message to the world, an opportunity lost. Yeah, I mean, this is after Rutte called Trump daddy, okay? But he's NATO. His job is to literally be an asset for America, right? His job is to manage the American protection racket. So when he's saying daddy, Ursula von der Leyen is basically also saying Trump is daddy here by allowing this deal to go through. Fantastic. Fantastic stuff. Can we agree that it's good? What? Good for who? Good for what? Like America? Not even. Whatever is good for the American capital owners doesn't translate to being good for you anyway, chatter. Like, does the peasant make more or yield more bounty when the king demands more from other other vassals? No. The vassals offer tribute to the king and a hand-selected few lords. You don't actually fucking receive any of those benefits. It's no different. It inspires me, my lord. Like, who do you think? There's a shit ton of neolibs in Europe. A lot of people are so scared of Russia that you can steal every penny from their pocket if you say it's for defense. Well, that too. There is definitely a lot of, USSR, remnants of USSR fears that Vladimir Putin in his invasion of Ukraine have like completely fucking re-emboldened.
Between the two largest economies in the world. And it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It will bring stability. It will bring predictability. That's very important for our businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. It's 15% tariffs across the board, all inclusive. The investments Mr. President just described that going to go to the United States and the purchases over there. Indeed, basically the European market is open. It's 450 million people. So it's a good deal. It's a huge deal. Yeah. With tough negotiations. I knew it at the beginning, and it was indeed very tough, but we came to good conclusions for both sides. So again, congratulations and many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions? I think we both wanted to make a deal. You said something that is very important. It's going to bring us closer together. I think this deal will bring us very close together, actually. It's a partnership in a sense, but it's a very good point, and it's something that's very important.
It's a great partnership. It's so good for us.
No, we had 4 or 5. No, not pharmaceuticals. I mean, we're going to be, as you know, a lot of companies are coming into the U.S., and that's unrelated to this deal. But it's, I think, this didn't just start today. We had a meeting. I wasn't sure. I said 50-50. I think you probably felt the same thing. But this started months ago, this negotiation. So we knew pretty much what we were getting into, and we were able to make a deal that's very satisfactory to both sides. So it's a very powerful deal. It's a very big deal. It's the biggest of all the deals. It will be the biggest of all the deals. So we're very honored to have done so. And your staff has been fantastic, and they worked together very long and hard.
They worked hard and long, and many thanks to the teams on both sides. There was, as I said at the beginning, a heavy lifting you had to do. But many thanks also for the talks we had many times on the way.
Your daddy, Your daddy, many thanks to you, Vater. Vater, you have done so well. We love paying fealty. We love being the vassal, Vater, we will work harder and harder for the Amerikanisch Ford F-150, Very nice. Wunderbar, as we say. Why are you showing cuck porn? That's just politics, baby.
To our goal. And now we made it. And that's good. That's really good.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else want the smoke?
President,
What are the U.S. concessions? What is the U.S. giving up in the deal, if anything?
So the starting point was an imbalance, a surplus on our side and a deficit.
Yeah, we were really fucking over America. So the starting point was America was getting fucked over. FIFA really sticking it to the Americanish people. Yeah, so the starting point was already bad for the Americans. So they get nothing. They get everything, and we get nothing in return. Very good.
On the US side. And we wanted to rebalance the trade relation. And we wanted to do it in a way that trade goes on between the two of us across the Atlantic, because the two biggest economies should have a good trade flow between us. And I think we hit exactly the point we wanted to find. Rebalance, but enable trade on both sides, which means good jobs on both sides of the Atlantic, means prosperity on both sides of the Atlantic, and that was important for us.
And again, the energy is a very important component because we have more energy than anybody else in that sense. And I think it was very wise that they buy a lot of energy, and it's great stuff, and it solves a lot of problems. So that was a great decision, I think. On what? Steel is staying the way it is. The steel and aluminum, et cetera, et cetera. That's a worldwide thing. That stays the way it is.
We have
chips is Howard. You might want to describe the chips, please, if you would.
Well, the expectation is in 2 weeks' time we're going to come out with our chips 232, and that was one of the key reasons that the European Union came to talk to the president to try to resolve all things at one time. And well, I'll let you wait for the 2 weeks until you get to announce your plan. But we are going to be bringing chip manufacturing back to the United States of America.
We'll be doing a lot of chips. A lot of companies are coming in from Taiwan and from other places into the U.S. And they're doing that in order to avoid tariffs. And the president really avoided the tariffs in a better way for them, much better way, much more conclusive. I think probably much more profitable, definitely much more profitable, and got a lot of benefit from it. So it was a very interesting negotiation. It was. I think it's going to be great for both parties. I think your various countries are very happy about this.
Is there an industry in the U.S. that you see maybe having the first impact of getting into this market that was not accessible before, whether it's auto? What's the first call you made?
Yeah, I think cars. Cars basically were not invited. Were not. I don't know if the word is not allowed or just, you just kept them out somehow, right? But cars will be. We have some cars that do terrific business, and we do really well with the pickup truck.
He's not even, my joke is now official trade policy. Oh my God. I said this as a fucking joke months ago. What are they supposed to do? Drive around Ford F-150 pickups in the European Union? Have you seen the fucking roads?
With the SUVs, we have some great things. And I think the people of Europe will have some diversification. I think that'll make them happy. So I think maybe cars would be the one that would go the biggest, and the second would be agriculture, the farmers. And we'll do it in very strict conjunction with the president and the European Union. And they're coming into our country with great vigor. And I think they're going to make a lot of money with this. I think everybody is. I think and again, it's going to bring a lot of unity and friendship. It's going to work out really well. Okay? Say it? That's an interesting question. This was the big one. This is the biggest of them all. Yeah. We're looking at deals with 3 or 4 other countries. But for the most part, I can't get them to understand that it's the letter. We just sent that letter, and that letter is, very universal for most. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do this. You wouldn't have the time or the patience to be able to do a deal like this. Most of the others are going to be a certain tariff, and we're going to keep it as low as we can. Generally smaller countries or countries we don't do much business with. But that they've already received, to a large extent, they've received a letter. They'll probably receive a letter of clarification or a confirmation type letter, which will go out sometime during this week, prior to August 1st. And the tariffs will start being paid by those countries prior to August, on August 1st and beyond. Okay? Oh, you got to be kidding with that. No, had nothing to do with it. Only you would think that. That had nothing to do with it. I think everybody's going to be happy with this. The Prime Minister of the UK, while he's not involved in this, will be very happy because, there's a certain unity that's been brought there, too. We have a separate deal with them. But I think he's going to be very happy to know. Look, he's friendly with all of you. I think he's a very good man. And he's going to be very happy to see what we did. I think UK is going to be very, very happy. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe.
Seemingly bad.
Bro.
Let's bring in ABC.
So insanely cooked. Seriously, can someone tell me the last time I saw a pickup truck that wasn't a Toyota Hilux or an American-made car of any sort in the UK or Europe? I remember seeing a handful in Switzerland, of all places, but literally none anywhere else. Am I mistaken? Have they started buying them in the last decade? I don't think it's even a question of price. Try parking a Raptor in Paris or Milan. Yeah. Japan and EU don't buy American cars for the exact same reason. They don't fit in the streets and parking spaces. Ford sells close to 500K cars in the EU each year, but most of them are compact cars like the Focus and hatchbacks produced specifically for the EU market. When China is dominating the European car market, they're dominating by making a car that the Europeans want. When America wants to dominate the European car market, they do so by forcing their cars that are literally impossible to drive without additional like, look at that car. It makes no sense. Someone in the chat literally said, why can't they make bigger roads? Amazing. Amazing.
His Chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl, will be hosting This Week later on this morning. John, good morning to you. Always great to have you. Let's start with the Epstein saga, overshadowing in part President Trump's trip overseas. Many of his own supporters continue to push for the release of more documents. So what's at stake for him as he tries to turn the page?
Yeah, look, it's the issue that just won't go away, Whit. I mean, look what happened this week in the House of Representatives. Speaker of the House, Johnson, literally sent members of Congress home for the summer to avoid a series of votes that Republicans were going to join Democrats in forcing on the Epstein saga. These are votes that the White House simply didn't want about releasing more of the documents. And then you had the extraordinary visit down to Florida by the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. This is Epstein's partner and former partner and co-conspirator. She's serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking, and she spent 2 days in closed-door meetings with the Deputy Attorney General. So even as President Trump wants to turn the page, says this is something nobody cares about, his own actions and the actions of some of his Republican allies have kept this story front and center, and it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon.
And John, on that topic, you mentioned the DOJ holding those meetings with Ghislaine Maxwell. Any indication that President Trump is actually considering a pardon? Is that on the table?
Well, Whit, I mean, if you had just asked me that question, a week ago, I would have said no way. But President Trump has now been asked it a couple of times, a pardon or some kind of a clemency, commuting her sentence, and he hasn't ruled it out. It's an extraordinary thing. Now, look, senior advisors at the White House say there's been no real discussion of this. They don't anticipate anything like this coming. But the mere fact that he hasn't ruled it out, combined with the fact that Epstein's attorney has made it clear that she is very much interested in getting a pardon. And in fact, that appears to be part of her motivation in seeking this meeting with Todd Blanche down in Florida. Who knows? But it would be an extraordinary, to say the least, step by President Trump that would cause severe blowback. I can't imagine it's actually coming, but we can't rule it out because Trump himself hasn't ruled it out.
John Karl, as always, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And tune into This Week later on this morning. John speaks with Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie about their bipartisan push to force a vote on releasing more Epstein case documents. Plus, John also speaks with Save the Children's Gaza humanitarian director Rachel Cummings as aid groups warn of mass starvation in the Gaza Strip.
Well, then tell me why for months she was saying that she's going to release the information tomorrow.
We made the assumption that the judges would release the order and allow the evidence that they had, that it could be heard. But it's all been sealed. And so if it's been a sealed case, we can't release it until the judges allow us to release it. And you would think common sense would play. That's why they asked for transparency. We want transparency. We want the judges to have transparency in this too. But remember, there was a plea deal that was struck in 2009, way before I was in office, way before Trump was even considering to be in office, way before Pam Bondi was in office, way before Kash Patel was director. 2009, there was a sweetheart plea deal that was made underneath the Obama administration with Epstein.
Nope. That was under Bush. That was before Obama. And Trump literally made the guy that offered the sweetheart plea deal his labor secretary. Why did these guys keep lying about the timeline? I mean it sincerely. Because, like, you saw Bill O'Reilly do it too. It's, like, very weird. I think every time they lie about the timeline and try to claim Barack Obama had a hand in this or like Biden had a hand in this, like it makes people more suspicious.
And that sweetheart has not been exposed.
No, it was 2000.
Oh, it's not? Well, when was the case heard?
It was 2008. It was the U.S. attorney at the time was a guy named Alex Acosta. He was a Bush appointee. He went on to become President Trump's Secretary of Labor. It all took place in 2008.
Who was in office at the time?
2008, George W. Bush.
Who was in office at the time?
George W. Bush.
No, 2009 is when the case came out, and it was and Obama was in office at the time.
It's not true. But let me ask you a question. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche met this week with Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. After the meeting, Maxwell's attorney indicated to reporters that he hopes President Trump will give her a pardon. What do you think of that idea? Will it be a mistake for President Trump to pardon Maxwell? And do you think that she's credible?
I don't know enough about Maxwell or the conversation to even weigh in on that. But I'll go back to what you're saying about it wasn't true. The case was sealed in 2009. That's absolutely true. It was heard in 2008. It was sealed in 2009.
The point is that the sweetheart deal, which was completed in 2008, was under the Bush administration, U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta. That's why Alex Acosta resigned in the first Bush administration, because the Miami Herald had written this story in 2018.
He fucked it up. He meant under the Trump administration. Alexander Acosta, as labor secretary, literally resigned because of the Miami Herald piece.
About how Epstein got away with so much. And then in 2019, the U.S. attorney under President Trump, Jeff Berman in the Southern District of New York, then brought charges against him. So, I mean, there is stuff to say that you could point to that say, like, President Trump did this or President Trump did that.
And remember, in 2019, President Trump and his administration called for it to be unsealed at that time, too. It went silent, and not a word was said during the Biden administration. Not a word. Nothing was said during the Biden administration.
People can look it up.
Okay, except Trump has said a word when he was running for president, and since is saying different words now that he is president. That's the reason why you're on television right now, Mark Wayne Mullen.
The sweetheart deal was 2008 during the George W. Bush administration. But I always appreciate your coming on the show. Senator Mullen, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Let me move on to Ghislaine Maxwell. As you know, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Attorney General spent 2 days interviewing her. She, of course, has been convicted of grooming, recruiting, abusing young teenage girls, along with Jeffrey Epstein. Mr. Speaker, Maxwell's attorney said she answered all questions honestly and truthfully. But do you think that Ghislaine Maxwell can be trusted?
Well, I mean, look, it's a good question. I hope so. I hope that she would want to come clean. We certainly are interested in knowing everything that she knows. And as you'll note, in our House Republican majority, we're working towards that. Chairman Comer and our Oversight Committee has already issued their own subpoena. They want to bring in Ghislaine Maxwell as well. I hope she's telling the truth. She is convicted. She is serving a 20-year sentence for child sex trafficking. And so her character is in some question. But If she wants to come clean now, that would be a great service to the country. And we'd like to know every single bit of information that she has. I certainly hope she's telling the truth.
Well, listen.
You certainly hope the convicted child sex trafficker is telling the truth when Donald Trump has basically designed the situation in a way where she is the primary she's the principal eyewitness testimony to her own crimes. Because who lied under oath, by the way, but the reason why she's the principal eyewitness testifier to her own crimes is because all of the evidence that is out there, Trump doesn't want people to see.
This week, President Trump didn't rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell. Of course, that's one of the big questions looming over all of this. So let me put this to you, Mr. Speaker. Would you support a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker?
Well, I mean, obviously that's a decision of the president. He said he had not adequately considered that. I won't get in front of him. That's not my lane. My lane is to help direct and control the House of Representatives and to use every tool within our arsenal to get to the truth. I'm going to say this as clearly and plainly and repeatedly as I can over and over. We are for maximum disclosure. We want all transparency. I trust the American people. I and the House Republicans believe that they should have all this information to be able to determine what they will. But we have to protect the innocent. And that's the only safeguard here that we've got to be diligent about. And I'm insistent upon doing so.
This motherfucker just can't say no to Trump. That's what this back and forth is. We must protect the American people by releasing a prolific sex trafficker of minors into the wild because her testimony will protect our Jeffrey Epstein affiliated president, who we love a lot. What a spectacular turn of events here, where the Republicans went from kill all pedophiles to like pedophilia is good, actually, and moral in some instances. Have you considered that? Like, that's like, how the fuck? It didn't take that long. It did not take that long to get to this point. Here is Azealia Banks, as you guys know, is a massive Hosberus now. Israel is tapping into only the best and brightest minds here for defending Israel. But of course, when you're in the process of defending Israel, you got to also sometimes defend the Trump-Jeffrey Epstein connection. Here's what she had to say. Okay, in Donald Trump's defense, fucking 14-year-old girls was really only made a social taboo in the 1990s. My grandmother was born in 1927 and had her first child when she was 12. Okay. Teenage pregnancy only became frowned upon with the rise of Jerry Springer, and I can be honest about the fact that I was old enough to choose, seduce, and decided to fuck grown-ass men when I was 15. I really don't get why women are fronting like they weren't fucking 40-year-olds at 15. Like, come on now. I'm honestly not surprised or mad at Trump for getting some 15-year-old pussy because those were the times. Good night, USA, for fucking ever. Now, if he was fucking a 10-year-old, we have a problem. But if the girls were 13 plus, who cares? Move on. Leah Banks logged onto her Twitter account and wrote those words in defense of Donald Trump, hypothetically doing statutory rape to a minor. That's where we're at. Incredible.
I guess my question is, are you open to a pardon or commutation? I mean, Mr. Speaker, the victims referred to Maxwell as Epstein's right-hand woman. Here's what one victim who testified under a pseudonym told the court at sentencing, quote, "The many acts that were perpetrated on me by Epstein, including rape, strangulation, and sexual assault, were never consensual and would not have occurred had it not been for the cunning and premeditated role Ghislaine Maxwell played." Is that someone deserving of a pardon or commutation in any circumstance, Mr. Speaker?
If you're asking my opinion, I think 20 years was a pittance. I think she should have a life sentence at least. I mean, think of all these unspeakable crimes. And as you noted earlier, probably 1,000 victims. I mean, you know, it's hard to put into words how evil this was, and that she orchestrated it and was a big part of it. At least under the criminal sanction, I think is an unforgivable thing. So, again, not my decision, but I have great pause about that, as any reasonable person would.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app.
So now it is time for us to get to the third installation of the Jaubrey saga, the finale, if you will. The Perversion of Ghislaine Maxwell, the Jeffrey Epstein Saga Part 3.
Damn, this guy's good.